Listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome in to Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase here on 102.5 The Game. And we are excited to bring you a great show today on a Monday. So much going on. It is March Madness. A lot of exciting basketball over the weekend. Predators continue on in their season. And, of course, the Titans introducing their brand new free agent class today over at their complex. So a lot to get into. Of course, the ongoing saga with Kevin Byard. Willy Donick here with you from Buffalo with the Predators. Nashville will take on the Sabres tomorrow night after getting throttled last night at Madison Square Garden 7-0 on the heels of a tough overtime loss to the Winnipeg Jets 3-2. A gutsy performance, but losing Roman Josi in the process, and that's really the biggest thing that they're dealing with now is injuries, starting with the captain. So a lot to get to. Caroline is out today, and she'll be back with us later in the week. So I'm holding it down from up in the Empire State. D-Mase is back in the studios. D-Mase, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Willy? Is it cold up in the up north, up in the Empire State?
I have been to Buffalo where it has been brutally cold, snow everywhere. So in mid-March, the sun is shining. It's at mid-30s, 40, so I'll take it.
That's like summertime for New York.
It's like, I'm telling you, it's like summertime. I'm going out with no coat on. I'm going to go out with no coat on just to walk around, just to be able to say I've done that in Buffalo, because usually you got to get the layers going for sure. But D-Mase, first of all, kudos to the Spartans. I know you were confident all the way, but they're in the Sweet 16 as it always seems like they are. Tom Izzo seems to find a way to get them there, and so your guys are there.
Yeah, they are. This is the game got a little testy late in the second half. But in Izzo fashion, the team hunkered down, went on a little run, and opened up the score a little bit. But this team, unlike many teams that either are still in the tournament or have been put out, there's two things about the Spartans that people must realize, and why they will always be one of those teams that you sort of look out for during the tournament, or you're just like scared to play. One, they are extremely well coached. I mean, extremely well coached. Izzo has found a way through he's been there, almost 30 years, if not 30 years. He's found a way to reinvent himself as a head coach. From the Mateen Cleaves and Mo Pete days to when they won a championship to the guys that they have now. He's been able to reinvent himself as a head coach. And those kids, they fight for him, they claw for him, they play hard for him. There's nothing on the basketball court, I think, that they will not do for Coach Izzo. He's just that type of coach. And then they got veteran guys that just understand how to win. Now, listen, they may not get to, the Elite Eight or the Final Four, even though I have them playing. I think I have them playing Alabama in a Final Four with Alabama winning. And people are probably saying, well, why you pick Alabama? I'm being smart. I've seen Alabama play. Not to say that I don't think Michigan State can win the game, but Alabama is just, I think they are the best team in the country now that Kansas has been put out. But this Spartan team, just like, UT, we can make fun of Rick Barnes and his non-ability to get this team, good teams, far in the tournament, but they're not shooting well, but what they make up for in shooting, it's the defense. This team is smothering from a defensive standpoint, and I didn't pick them to beat Duke, and they held Duke to 52 points. Now, they only scored 65, but they held Duke to 52 points. So you got to take your hat off to Rick Barnes and that group of guys and what they're doing. So I hope to see a matchup between State and UT, the green and white versus the orange and white, and I can see that happening. So kudos to my Spartans and Izzo, and kudos to Rick Barnes and what he's able to do, having his team still in the tournament.
No question. They're on the same side or in the same quadrant, so they could be on collision course, and great opportunities for those teams. So we'll get to Tennessee a little bit later. That was a great win against Duke. As we talked about, the defense gives them a chance to win every game, and if they hit shots, they can beat anybody. And sure enough, they hit some threes. They hit about 40% from three, and that was enough with the great defense they played against the red-hot Duke Blue Devils. So Tennessee with a great opportunity against Florida Atlantic out of Conference USA. So interesting, Conference USA has Florida Atlantic playing Tennessee. They've got UAB playing Vanderbilt in the NIT. And so that's Middle Tennessee's league. Middle had a very good year in that league, so they're very familiar with both opponents. So I'm sure they're very curious to see how their opponents go up against the SEC guys in their backyard. So it'll be Michigan State against Kansas State coming up. Kansas State outlasts Kentucky. Kentucky led by 1, and you probably watched that game,
Yes.
D-Mase, as I did. And Kansas State just pulled away late. They hit the big shots late in the game, and Kentucky just not quite enough. That was really Kentucky's issue all year long. Is when they were a little bit inconsistent, especially offensively. I thought played most of their best games down the stretch. But what kind of was their weakness all year long? Just,
Shooting.
Layers of scoring behind Sheboy. Yeah, just not consistent enough. And they could not hit a three to save their lives. Every time there was a big three, it seems like theirs were rimming out, and K-State hit a couple of big ones late.
It was almost as if you watch that game, for one, I mean, Oscar is just it's like he's a man amongst boys down in the blocks. Every rebound that goes up, it seems like how, I don't know, but everybody understands that you need to box out Sheboy, and he manages to get the rebound regardless. They almost out-rebounded K-State 2-1. They had 44 rebounds. K-State had 25. So I think UK's problem was 16 turnovers, and they shot 20% from the three-point line. When your team, looks to, dump the ball so heavily and to Oscar, and those teams pack down, you gotta hit your outside shots, and Kentucky just didn't do it. And you don't run into many teams that they have a dominant big man. The same thing happened in Purdue. Their big man. It reminded me of LSU with Shaquille O'Neal, and they didn't want anybody to dump it in to the big man. It was 3 guys around him. And if you cannot hit baskets from the outside, you're not going to win. It happened to Purdue. They didn't win. They lost a close one. And it happened to Kentucky. When you are relying so heavy on dumping the ball down, when he kicks it back out, you got to be able to hit those shots.
Alabama has had the draw wide open for them. As you mentioned, D-Mase, they're playing really well. They get San Diego State. They'll be a pretty heavy favorite. I think it's 7 points last I saw, somewhere in that neighborhood for their Sweet 16 game. And then if they win, they get the winner of Creighton and Princeton. Creighton has, for a 6 seed, really good numbers. And we'll talk about the net, the Ken Palm, the efficiency, because that's been a pet peeve of mine. Mm-hmm. But Creighton does have great ratings, and they knocked off the 3 seed Baylor. And, of course, Princeton is the Cinderella story, knocking off 2 straight teams. They easily beat Missouri. How about that? After beating Arizona, the 15 seed beat Missouri by 15, just carved them up with the backdoor cuts, the Princeton traditional stuff that has been carving up teams for years. And Missouri, with 1 day to prepare, probably just was not ready for what Princeton's structure gives you. So it'll be different for Creighton because they've got several days now to get used to what Princeton runs. So this could be tough for Princeton. They're the biggest underdog, obviously.
I thought we were going to see a Princeton's men and a Princeton's women both in the Sweet 16, Elite 8. Their women end up getting beat by Utah by less than 10 points. But I was sort of looking. I'm like, oh, Princeton's women. Men, they're both winning. They end up losing to Utah, so too bad.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would have
And I
loved
think
to
the
see
women
that.
they pulled an upset, right? They beat NC State, I think, in the
first round, yes.
Yeah, looking good. For Ivy League representing, for sure. But, with all of the stuff going on with Alabama, and there's a lot of stuff, with that murder that took place. The New York Times has been uncovering some things, and it just seems like Alabama, each day that goes by, people are finding out more and more of what happened on the night where a woman was murdered. But Alabama continues to play lights out. They're just dominating teams. So I wonder, as the spotlight gets bigger, how will the media cover that? But on the court, man, they're awfully tough, and they look like the best team right now.
Mm-hmm. That they do. They're playing extremely well, both from a offensive standpoint, which we knew they would. But they are, I think, based on the metrics, they are one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. They're long, they're athletic, they're physical, and, they're quick. When the ball gets swung around the top of the key, those guys manage to close in on those three-pointers. So Alabama is the team to beat. I had Alabama and Kansas in the final. Well, there goes my final. In regards to Kansas and Alabama.
Don't even talk to me, because I think I might have the worst bracket of all time. It might be the worst of all time. I don't know if they keep that. I know they try to keep, who's got the perfect bracket, or who's real close, who's winning the bracket. If they keep who's got the worst of all time,
it's you.
I might be up there. I might be up there this year. It's just brutal. I haven't.
There has to
anything.
be somebody worse than you, Willie.
I don't think in our pool. You can ask Michelle. If Michelle Knezovic is still around, she can check, and I think you might find my name at the bottom. I know I was after 2 days, and I don't think I've gotten any better.
Oh,
I don't think I've gotten better. I got one of my Final Four left, and that's Houston, who's got Miami, Xavier against Texas, a little more normalcy in that part of in that quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
And then out west, you've got UConn, who looks very powerful. Arkansas pulled the big upset over Kansas, so UConn against Arkansas, that's a lot of talent in that game. And then Gonzaga, UCLA, they've locked up a few times in the tournament over years. That's going to be a lot of fun watching those teams go head to head for sure. I want to ask you about one thing, Derek, before we go to the break. I don't know did you see Florida Atlantic, who, by the way, is 33-3. 33-3. One of the losses was to Middle Tennessee, if you can believe that. And Middle Tennessee played them very tough. But their game against Memphis went right to the wire. There was a play late in the game that everybody's talking about. Did you see it on the jump ball?
Yes, I saw the end of the game. And I tell you, Coach Hardaway was livid after the game.
He wasn't happy.
Yeah,
he wasn't
was
happy.
not
so
happy.
So let's lay it out. Okay, in fact, let's go to the break. When we come back, philosophical question for you, D-Mase, and people can weigh in on our call and text line, 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Always welcome to call or text in with the discussion here. And we will get to the Titans free agency a little bit later, the Kevin Byard situation, the Predators today. I want to ask about how to try to officiate that play, because it may have been the difference in Memphis' season when you get right down to it. Because if Memphis wins that game, they get to play Fairleigh Dickinson in the second round, who pulled off the unbelievable upset of Purdue. That was an incredible sporting event. But one call could have swung it. And so I want to ask D-Mase what he thinks of how to officiate that situation. We've got a lot going on. It's a great day for sports here on March Madness. 615-737-1025. We're back with more of Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase next.
Tune in to Robbie and Rexroad this week for your chance to win tickets to the Louder Than Life Festival.
They're all in there, man. They're trying to win.
Yes. The Louder Than Life Festival, September 21st through the 24th at the Kentucky Expo Center in Louisville. Catch some of the biggest acts in music.
That rocks.
Blew the house up, man. It was ill.
Listen for your chance to win all this week on Robbie and Rexroad, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Happy Monday, everybody. And this is D-Mase, and I want to tell you, men, about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, my men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with that experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. There's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So, men, what are you waiting for? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge at Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number. Put it in your phone. Lock it in. 615-486-3458. I've made my appointment, fellas. 615-486-3458. Or visit their website at coolspringsmd.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, "Don't sell without the intel." This message couldn't be more true. Right now, it's a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot? And intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com. where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Back here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. D-Mase back in the game studio, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Willy Donick here with you in Buffalo with the Predators. And speaking of the Predators, they're in action tomorrow against the Sabres. And that means it's your chance to participate in the Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty and Superbook Sports. If you correctly guess a Predators player that scores a goal in the game tomorrow night, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Predators home game. More on the Predators a little bit later in the show. And so to guess the Preds player is going to score a goal, you got to get familiar with some of these new guys, these youngsters coming up, and all of the new faces. It's been really tough as they continue to lose players to injury. All right, Willy and D-Mase here with you. D-Mase, I talked about the situation. You got Tennessee. Can you imagine if Tennessee were playing Memphis in the Sweet 16? How much hype that would get? Penny Hardaway against Tennessee, the game that got canceled last year at Bridgestone Arena, that would have been a lot of fun. It didn't happen, and congrats to FAU. A big moment late, they get the game-winning shot in the final seconds. But before that, with about 5.5 seconds to go, you had a jump ball called. The possession arrow favored Florida Atlantic. Memphis was up by 1. Memphis thought they had the ball, and we're trying to call timeout as the ball is being fought for. Now, if you're a Memphis fan, you think you got hosed, right? You think you had the ball. This is what, to me, would be tough as a referee. When does the Memphis player actually have possession? It's a loose ball on the floor. Both teams are going for it, right? Both teams are trying to grab it. I have a hard time sometimes saying that Memphis had the ball under control and it has the ability to call timeout. And so I didn't mind the call. I think that's kind of the right way to do it. Like, you clearly have to have the ball, to me, to be able to call timeout. So sometimes I think refs give the team the benefit of the doubt too quick. I thought that was a good call, but I don't know how you felt about it.
I mean, to me, he had the ball. There's 2 refs sitting right there, and both of them are watching. To me, the Memphis guy had the ball. Now, whether they saw him call a timeout, that's a different story. But when you have 2 referees sitting right there, one of them should have the ability to see the ball, see who has it, and then make a call. Whether you heard the timeout. Now, if you heard the timeout, then, okay, to me, if you heard the timeout, there's 2 refs right there, then you make the call. And it was clear to me, once they fell to the ground, that the Memphis guy did have the ball. And again, there's 2 refs sitting right there watching the play. But I understand why, they don't make the call. They allow it to be a jump ball. I get that. But yet and still, I do believe that the Memphis guy secured the ball, and you got 2 refs right there. They should have made the call. That it was Memphis's in Memphis possession. Yeah. It wasn't like both guys, the ball was scrambling around and both guys were, fighting for it and it was up in the air. The Memphis guy was on the ground. He clearly had the ball.
He had it, but it may have been only for a half a second. And the guy, he was surrounded by red jerseys. It was close. I do think he had the ball for an instant. But here's the thing for me. All right, Derek, let's say you and I are on the same team. You're down there fighting for a loose ball. Well, if I'm a smart player, which I wasn't always, but you anticipate, right? You see the situation. You're calling for a timeout. You're yelling in the ref's ear for timeout before or at least this is what I would try to do. I would be calling it in anticipation of you getting the ball. But I don't really know if you have the ball yet. But that doesn't keep me from saying, timeout, 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 while you're fighting for the ball. You see what I'm saying? So the ref has to look. He's got to be able to see first that you have the ball before he's able to listen to me calling for a timeout.
Willy,
that's what Gene Steratore
if you watch it, yeah, and I understand it, but if you watch it, the Memphis guy clearly has the ball. And the other guy,
you got to slow it down to see that.
No, I'm watching. I'm still watching it. I'm watching it. I've rewound it like 3 or 4 times, and I'm watching it in real time. I'm not even slowing it down. The ball was clearly away from the FAU player, and he had fumbled the ball and fumbled it right into the Memphis guy hand. Now, it was clear that the Memphis guy had it. I'm not. What I'm not sure about is, why isn't that a foul? Like, you can just jump on somebody and grab the ball while they're already on the ground. Isn't that a foul under any other circumstance?
That's another thing the ref's got to look for.
Exactly.
Is somebody getting fouled, or is it a loose ball? It's tough. It's tough there. And you don't want to call foul.
Exactly. You don't want to call a foul on that one.
That's tough.
I get it. But it's like, okay, you're down on the ground. A guy has the ball, and another guy comes in there, and he can't get to the ball, but he reaches in there, and I'm sure he's hitting body. If that's any other time during the game, they're probably calling that a foul, because I've seen that plenty of times where a guy's on the ground and another guy comes in and jump in. They either call it jump ball or they call it a foul.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I like, at the end of a game, letting the guys fight for the loose ball, but that's me. And what I don't like is you and I are fighting for a loose ball, and before we even know it's a jump ball, they've given you a timeout. They've given you the ball and the timeout. To me, on a loose ball, you shouldn't be able to get that advantage.
That's why it should be a jump. To me, it should be a jump ball. It should be a jump ball.
That's what they called, and that's what they called.
No, I'm saying it should be a jump, like a legitimate jump ball. Like, we're going to take it.
Not a possession
exactly,
arrow.
not a possession arrow. Just a jump in the last couple of minutes, say the last minute of the game. If that does indeed happen, then to me, it should be, because now you give both teams an opportunity to get the basketball.
Now, that's an interesting thing that I haven't heard brought back up. I mean, when was the last time they actually used the jump ball? It's been 30 or 40 years now, right? But since they actually did do the jump ball when there was a tie-up. But think about the importance of that call, because if Memphis gets the timeout, they have the ball up one with 5.5 seconds or so, whatever it was, they're probably going to get fouled, get a chance. Their chances of winning go up to about 85, 90% in that scenario. Instead, FAU gets the ball, and you can sit there and say, well, just stop them. Just make a stop.
They should have, because my thing is, on that last play with FAU, why does Elijah McCaden jump out so far?
Oh,
you force him to take that three-pointer. Why are you jumping out so far and he goes right around you? Now you've exposed your defense. Play it head up, and if he wants to shoot that three-pointer, let him. That's a higher percentage shot. Well, lower percentage shot. When you shoot that three-pointer from the corner like that, he jumped out there so far that he put himself in a defensive bad position. He put himself at a disadvantage from a defensive standpoint. He jumped out there too far, and the guy did nothing but go right around him. And then you expose the middle of the court in the paint. So even with all of that, if you play head-up defense, straight-up defense, they got to take a jump shot instead of driving it to the lane. So we can talk about the jump ball, and we can argue it back and forth. Not you and I, but people can argue that back and forth. But if Coach Hardaway looks at it, if his guy plays straight up defense, you have a better shot at winning from a defensive standpoint, and instead of taking one side of the court off or taking away his drive to the right, making him drive to the left, and there's nobody in the paint.
Yep. All right. So D-Mase, did you see? I texted you at halftime. Did I not?
Yes.
I texted the group at halftime of the Fairleigh Dickinson-Purdue game, and I said, Purdue's having trouble. They're having trouble with these guys. This is really something. I did not see any of the game that Maryland-Baltimore County beat Virginia a couple years ago, the first 16 to ever win. So this, and I do remember watching Princeton and Georgetown. Remember way back in the 80s, late 80s? That was the first time I can ever remember a 16 even being close. But Princeton played Georgetown really tight, ended up losing by 2. Or something like that. It was 88, I think, or 89, somewhere in there. But most of the time, the 16s just get whitewashed. But I texted you guys, and I said, this is an interesting matchup. Fairleigh Dickinson has a bunch of gnats. They're running all over the place, backdoor cutting, hustling, and Purdue is getting tight. And so I really enjoy a big upset. Those are really special moments in sports. How much of that game did you get to San Francisco?
I watched the whole game.
Did you?
Yeah. To me, it got to a point, just like I discussed with Oscar Tshiebwe in Kentucky, where you got that dominant presence in the middle of the paint, and teams, what do? Teams collapse down to make it hard for an entry pass. They did that to Oscar Tshiebwe. Kentucky didn't hit outside shots consistently. That's why they end up winning. That's why they end up losing. Same with Purdue. You had the big fella at 7'3", somewhere around there, 7'2".
Yeah. Zach Edey.
Exactly. And he's a dominant force. He's truly a dominant force. But what was happening was, as the game drew closer and closer to the end, those guys did not. The announcers even said it, like, they don't want to shoot the ball. Like,
that's right.
They were leaving guys scot-free open. Like the next defender was probably 3 steps away from them. They were giving them the 3-point shot, and they would not take it at all. That's why they lost the game. Not because, they were, not because they were this team that just ran around and was much faster than Purdue. They were. But if Purdue shoots that 3-point with confidence, they more than likely win that game. And they were not shooting 3 points with confidence at all.
No, but that's kind of what's fun about an upset is that everybody in the gym starts rooting for Fairleigh Dickinson, the underdog. They get behind him. Purdue feels the pressure, and it affects those 3-point shots, right? And then, like you were saying, it's almost like they were saying, all right, go ahead, shoot it. I'm going to leave you open. You're not going to hit that. And guys who have been hitting threes all year long, they got tight, and they were missing them. And the last guy shot an air ball. Cried out loud. I mean, the game's on the line. He fired up an air ball. The guy's a good shooter.
Oh,
but it was just the moment.
It's called March Madness for a reason.
That's exactly right. Fairleigh Dickinson, D-Mase had. Remember we talk about these quads, right? I think that's an issue. We got to redefine some of this. We're getting too technical, but quad losses. Fairleigh Dickinson had 12 quad 4 losses. 12 to quad 4 teams. They beat Purdue a 1 seed. So pretty interesting stuff. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about Tennessee's matchup with Florida Atlantic and what Tennessee has been able to do. Remember where they've been, right? They've been picked on, ripped on. Their own fan base has been frustrated with them. But of all teams to break through to the Sweet 16, here they are. And they've got a chance to play a 9 seed in the Sweet 16. So stay tuned. We'll talk about the Big Orange next here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I think it's a really good move.
TD, it's never the offseason for ESPN's Teron Davenport.
I mean, that's something you obviously have to look at.
He's always talking about what's next for the Tennessee Titans.
Quarterback is a really important thing that they have to get determined.
Check out TD, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8:30. Plus, the Talkin' with TD podcast.
Looking forward to that.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
The choice is yours, Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to jarrettfire.com. JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
We do screen printing.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do embroidery.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do large format printing.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do promotional goods.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do graphic design.
Music City Screen Prints.
MCScreenprints.com. That's MCScreenprints with an S.com. 615-866-6010.
You think it, we print it.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Eastside Bowl in Madison, a vintage bowling alley, music venue, diner, lounge, and arcade designed by locals for locals. And March 28th, don't miss the Battle of Nashville, Nashville's best Rage Against the Machine tribute band. Right now, you can get 2 hours of bowling plus shoe rentals for up to 6 people for just $45. That's 2 hours of bowling plus shoes for up to 6 people, just $45. Go to thegamenashville.com/deals to get yours now.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, it's Nashville. This is Sean Henry. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
After losing your starting point guard during the season, then coming into the tournament with 2 big statement wins, I just want to know, what do you guys attribute this dog mentality that you guys have been playing with to?
We talked about it. We train hard. We work hard. Many teams work really, really hard, but if you could be with us and be with these guys over the last 4 years of what we've gone through, but if the work ethic they put into it, and we said all the time, let's trust our training, let's trust each other, and I think that we're built for the way we play, and I think these guys, they certainly believe in each other, and we've got, like I'm sitting here looking at this stat sheet, and O had a day today which he's capable of having and can consistently. Jonah, I'm looking at Josiah. He's has the ability to do what he did today. Santi. So we got different guys, and they've all done it at some point in time. And I do believe that these guys have a terrific belief in each other, and they respect each other at the highest level.
That's Rick Barnes, head coach for Tennessee, who picked up the win against Duke. A lot of people did not see that coming. The way Duke had played down the stretch and the way Tennessee had played down the stretch, Tennessee went 5-7 in their last 12 heading into the tournament. Duke really hit their stride down the stretch and went all the way through and won the ACC tournament. But it does illustrate the ACC was a little bit more shallow this year, not as deep as the SEC. Tennessee took some lumps, had some injuries, came up with the big performance. I think it's a tribute to the league and the perseverance. You got to give these guys credit, Derek, for because they heard all of the critics. There's no question about it. It would have been easy to doubt themselves, but and think about all of the tournament failures before, the irony, where they probably had better teams but fell short, and here's this team without their point guard that's gone through a lot of struggles, but they're the ones in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, they are. You know, and I think for Rick Barnes, this is, I'm sure it's relieving for him that now he's gotten his team into the Sweet 16 because, man, had they lost that game against Duke, oh my goodness, he wouldn't have heard the end of it during the offseason. But they out-physicaled Duke. They got to the boards more than Duke. They made it very hard for Duke to find an open shot, even though Duke shot better from the field than Tennessee. Tennessee killed them from the three-point line. Tennessee shot nearly 45% from the three-point line, whereas Duke was a dismal 27%. Against a team like UT with their smothering defense, if you're not hitting three-pointers to sort of get him off of you so you can drive to the basket, then it's going to be a long day. Just like we talked about Alabama earlier in the show, how athletic and long and physical they are. Well, Tennessee may not be as athletic as Alabama, but they are physical. They make you work for every possession. I haven't seen defense like this. I mean, I can go back to, you know, maybe the UNLV days with that. They called it the NEBA defense, where they were, you know, pressing the ball 90 feet, and they made it very difficult for you to get into your sets. Well, UT does the same thing. They don't press the ball all game, but they press when they need to, but they make it very difficult for you to get into your offensive sets.
That's true. And I think another Tennessee advantage they had. Remember, the line was only 2. Right? We talked about it on Friday when we were looking at the matchup. You're like, look, it really looks like Duke, should win this game. But the odds makers realized that Tennessee brought a lot to the table. The other advantage that Tennessee had, you hit on it, Derek, extra possessions, right? You don't see it in the 2-point field goal percentage because Tennessee missed a bunch there, but they got a lot of offensive boards. They doubled up Duke on the offensive glass. Duke had 15 turnovers. So those extra possessions for Tennessee came in big time. And if you look at the lineups, each team was missing a key guy. Mark Mitchell was missing for Duke. Ziegler, obviously, for Tennessee. So that left Duke, the guys who played the big minutes, the 5 guys, 4 of them are freshmen, and then 1 junior. So Tennessee is a lot older and stronger, more physical. Senior, sophomore, senior. Those are your starting 5. And, bringing up another senior off the bench and Tyreek Key. So those guys, it does make a difference when you're older like that and have been through the battles. And that definitely.
Just imagine that. The first half is 18, 19 minutes? And you only managed to score 21 points. Now, UT scored 27, but that defense that UT played, not just in the first half, in the second half as well, even though, Duke came out and scored a little bit more in the second half. But that defense was smothering. It reminded me of, I was watching The Last Dance, and it was in the championship game with Utah, and I didn't realize this, with Utah and the Bulls. The Bulls, and think about this, Willie, and I'm sure you know exactly where I'm going. In a 4-quarter game in the NBA, where you're talking about the best of the best athletes, they held Utah Jazz to 57 points. Not in the first half. 57 points in the game. That's defense.
A 48-minute game.
A 48-minute game, and they scored 57 points, somewhere around there. UT did the same exact thing to Duke. 2 halves, roughly 20 minutes, and they only managed 52 points. 21 in the first half and 31 in the second half. That is smothering defense. If they continue to play this type of defense and continue to shoot around that high 30, maybe low 40, it's going to be hard for teams to beat them. Why? Not because they're a great shooting team, but because of the defense that they play. Again, if they can just shoot around that high 30, low 40 from the three-point line, it's going to be hard to beat them.
We're going to talk about that matchup as we get closer to it, because as we've said all year long, the defense, and when you can crash the offensive glass like Tennessee can, defense and rebounding are there every night. They don't go into slumps. They're going to be there, and they have the number 1 defense in the country. So you've got to bring it to beat Tennessee, and they're going to give themselves a chance. It all depends on can you stop Tennessee offensively, and they do struggle sometimes. But they hit 9 threes. They had a good day. Maybe they're adapting a little bit now that Ziegler's been out for a while. They're figuring out how to get the ball up the court and run their offense. So encouraging, a great opportunity for them against Florida Atlantic. When we come back, let's shift gears. Let's talk Titans and get Derek's latest thoughts. We spent most of Friday talking about the developing story with Kevin Byard. We'll get his thoughts as he sort of absorbed everything over the weekend, where we think it's going from here. Stay tuned. We'll talk more when we come back here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase here on 102.5 The Game.
Shot clock at 2, and the three is good from Jordan Wright.
After an amazing end-of-season run, the Vanderbilt Commodores look to win the NIT.
Wright fires. Wow!
Join Jerry Stackhouse and his team for every moment on your home for Vanderbilt basketball. 93.3 Classic Hits.
It's that time of year, the insanity, the madness, the tournament. Your friends showing up at your house to watch the games and eat all your food. You want to be a good host, but you don't want total chaos, and Central Barbecue has the solution. Bulk order some slow-smoked barbecue and pick it up right before tip-off. Stop by either Nashville location or place an order at eatcbq.com. Come by the Hillsborough location between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. March 23rd to see a live broadcast with 102.5 The Game. There will be giveaways and more. Whatever your plans are for this madness, you'll be taken care of at Central Barbecue.
For one day only, Saturday, March 25th, get 5+ acres and a new cabin package on sale for only $69.9 during the Nashville Acreage Grand Opening Land Sale. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get the best of both worlds. Flat, usable, prime Nashville acreage with the biggest and most spectacular ridgeline views in the entire Nashville area. Priced below market prices. Come explore this recreational paradise and make your dreams of owning exceptional Nashville acreage a reality for less. With 5+ acres and a new cabin package for just $69.9. Best of all, these properties include first-class infrastructure like county water, electric, and county road frontage. All huge advantages in today's market. Appointment times are filling up fast. Call now to book your private tour. 615-437-6348. That's 615-437-6348. Cabin kit package for materials only. Delivered to site by third party. Taxes and delivery not included. Prices subject to change without notice or obligation. Call for complete details. An equal housing opportunity.
Experience the crisp, clean, smooth, and refreshing pure agave flavor of Dulce Vita Tequila. Dulce Vita Tequila is made using only 100% USDA certified organic blue agave that is harvested from Los Altos, Mexico. Dulce Vita Blanco is additive-free and gluten-free. Try it for yourself. 1.5 ounce of Dulce Vita Blanco Tequila, 4 ounces of sparkling water, and a squeeze of lime for a delicious ranch water cocktail that is less than 100 calories. Dulce Vita Tequila, pure and simple.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose. I don't want college football to be the NFL. When they get...
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexroad are Robbie and Rexroad. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
He is a absolute leader in that locker room, and not only the mayor of Murfreesboro, but the mayor of the Tennessee Titans. I think that would be a huge mistake if they were to let him go.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think they want to. Bayard's camp has said that he hasn't asked for his release, and that was through Tehran, I believe. And Chase, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Was. But in knowing that, there is some, they're trying to free up space. But normally in this situation, you restructure, and if you take a quote unquote pay cut for the season, where I believe he counts $19 million against the cap this year, you give him more money up front on a contract that's restructured. You just shift the money around, and it doesn't sound like that's what was going on here. And all the reporting on this has been accurate based on where the Titans are in the cap and the fact that, Bayard certainly wants to, everyone was tweeting it at the exact same time. Bayard wants to remain a Titan. He wants to retire with the Tennessee Titans. But normally the NFL careers don't always work out that way. But here's where it should work out for Kevin Bayard in Tennessee. 108 tackles last season, 4 interceptions. He played in those 17 games. He's never missed a game in his NFL career. And we have seen him as a first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler in 2017 and then again in 21. So in thinking about where he was in 2017, where he led the league in interceptions, that was his second season, and how he progressed back to a level that's not just a leader, but a productive leader for this Titans defense, I don't see how they make a move without going to someone else first, and that someone else first is Ryan Tannehill.
Jonathan Hutton earlier today from Outkick with Chase McCabe, Michelle Knezovic on the show that precedes ours. Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Caroline's off today. If you're a golfer, join us for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament benefiting Souls for Souls on June the 7th at Hermitage. So put your team together. Come play with athletes, musicians, other local celebs to support a great cause and have a lot of fun. Plus, you have a chance to win awesome prizes. So sign up by going to thegamenashville.com/golf. So, D-Mase, you heard Hut there. You and I and Caroline really went and dissected it a lot on Friday's show. As you had a chance to sort of absorb it over the weekend, there's you can debate all you want on whether he's asked for his release, not asked for his release. But I think the bottom line is it's pretty obvious that Rand Carthon and the Titans do not see that contract working in their salary cap scheme the way it is. So it's got to be addressed. That's my thought of it. So give me your thoughts as now you've had a day or two to process this.
I mean, from what I've gathered over the weekend, yes, they did ask him to take a pay cut, but he didn't ask to be released. So where do the Titans stand now? Where do Kevin Bayard stands now? Kevin has been excellent for this organization since he's been here, especially since he's become a starter. You laid it all out. Hadn't missed a game. He's been a 2-time All-Pro, Pro Bowler. He's been the leader on this defense and one of the leaders in the locker room. But as we all know in sports, all of that can be true, and the team still feel a need to part ways with you. And a lot of times it has to do with money. And a lot of times it has to do with a guy getting toward the end of his career, and you're trying to make a move before he plateaus, so you can possibly get something for him. And if you ask him to take a pay cut, you try to get it to where, you're still paying him good money, but you're able to do some other things as far as your team. This team has a lot of retooling to do, resetting, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot going on in that organization. Again, I've said this offseason is going to be probably one of the most off seasons since Mike Vrabel has become head coach of this football team. Why? Because that window is presumably gone right now, and you usher in a new GM. And so you're getting a new stadium in the next 3 to 4 years. So you got to take all of this into account. You got to take your feelings out of it, and you got to look at it just based on a financial standpoint and based on where this team can be or where they want this team to be in 3 years. Yes, you can hold on to Kevin Byard. I get that. You can. But how long do you hold on to him? See, that's the dilemma that a GM, especially a new GM and a head coach, they have to figure out. I love this guy. Hell, he loved Ben Jones. That was like, if anybody, I would expect Ben Jones to stay on the team because of how Mike Vrabel felt about him. But they even cut Ben Jones. And Ben Jones wasn't making a lot of money. Now, I get it. He dealt with the concussions and everything else. But that was one guy that he fought through a lot to make sure he was out there 90% of the time or a little bit more than that. And you still felt the need where your organization is at now that you had to release him. I'm sure it was one of the toughest things that Vrabel had to do since he's been head coach, was to release a guy like Ben Jones. But he had to do it, And it's the same with potentially Kevin Byard. We're going to ask him to take a pay cut. From what Kevin Byard said at the end of the season, I can't see him then saying, well, I'm not taking a pay cut. You trade me. I can't see that. He's probably going to put the pressure on them to make that decision. I don't think Kevin Byard, after what he said at the end of the season, that he gave them the ultimatum of, listen, either you guarantee my contract or you cut me. I'm not taking a pay cut. I can't see Kevin Byard doing that, considering what he said about this organization and him wanting to retire a Titan. Now, the reality may be he may not, but the Titans have to do what they need to do to make sure this organization, before they move into that stadium or when they move into that stadium, they have a team that can compete. I look at this team right now, and I heard, Friday, well, Derek doesn't think this team going to win, or Derek doesn't believe. Listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I play for this team. I love this team, and I end up going somewhere else. But I always want this team to win. But I look at it from the standpoint of, where is this organization at now based on where they were? And I've been saying this for like the last year or 2 years, like, based upon all the injuries that they've had, this team is going downhill, and it doesn't look good. And ironically, this last season, it just hit rock bottom. It took me back to 2004 when that team, they tried one more time to give it a run. And what happened, Willie? Everybody got hurt. And then what did they do? Exactly. What did they do that offseason? Everybody was gone. Exactly. History repeats itself. People look at me or listen to me, and I don't understand why when it comes from me, it's something totally different. But when it comes from somebody else, it's like, oh, they know what they're talking about. I was in that locker room. I was in locker rooms for 15 years. I've seen how it operates. I don't know every nook and cranny of it, but I can tell you from a player standpoint what goes on. So when I say things, I think about it before I say it. And I think about, well, this offseason, is the Titans window still there? I thought about this during last season, at the end of last season. I'm thinking like, man, if they don't do it this year, with all of these guys that are coming toward the end of their contracts, they may have to reset this thing. And lo and behold, what are they doing right now?
I think that's the toughest thing. And you're the perfect person on our station to talk about this because it's easy for fans, it's easy for media people to look at Kevin Byard and say, well, what does he deserve? Why does he deserve this?
Exactly, and they're right.
He's been productive, and they're absolutely right. He is a heartbeat kind of guy for the team, but it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with where the team is and what that cap hit is. At 19.6, the cap figure just doesn't work. He's never played with that high of a cap hit, so it has to be addressed. And so you figure out, okay, what are the options to how to address it?
Mm-hmm.
You can give him more money up front, push the pile back, which you know very well, Derek. That just pushes the problem down the road.
Exactly.
Or you could try to say, look, Kevin, if you want to stay here, and I know you do, we'd love to have you, but you probably have to take a little less money if we're going to make this work. And so that's where the rubber meets the road. And you can't let your sentimental stuff get in the way of building a roster, especially if you're Rand Carthon, a first-time general manager coming in, looking at the salaries, looking at the roster, looking at the AFC, being objective about it, and saying this is what we've got to do. So you know what it's like more than anybody else when you're a productive player and they come to you and say, well, it's not working here, and it's not your fault, but we've got to do this. It's hard to understand that as a player, I would think.
Exactly, but you get it very quickly. And I was told, when I first got into the league, listen, you're closer to retirement than not. So you need to, sort of do things based upon that. And you look at a guy like Kevin Byard, and he's still playing well. But the Titans need some relief somewhere. And I heard Hutton say, well, you ask Ryan Tannehill to do it. No, you're not going to ask Ryan Tannehill. Why? Because you don't have a quarterback in waiting. If Ryan Tannehill says no, what do? Do you cut Ryan Tannehill? Now you're really tanking, because all of the quarterbacks that you possibly could want are already on teams. So you can't even go to, unless Ryan Tannehill says, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. Let's kick some money down. But now you are on a hook for him even longer than what you probably want to be, unless he just takes a complete pay cut, which, again, he's another guy that shouldn't have to because he has done everything that you've asked him to as a quarterback. Everybody, well, the minute I say that, I know a lot of people are saying, Cincinnati. Yes, you are absolutely right, Cincinnati. But we can point out a lot of other games where he's played well, and he wasn't the reason why they lost. So if you do indeed go to Ryan Tannehill, you got to be prepared for Ryan Tannehill to say the same thing that Kevin Byard said. No. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to cut Ryan Tannehill? Because you have no other quarterback. You can get one. Well, you do have one. You got Malik Willis. Well, if you believe in Malik Willis, then go to Ryan Tannehill, and you better be prepared for him to possibly say no. Not that he will, but you got to be prepared for him to say no. And when he says no, what is your contingency plan? See, people, when you start throwing that out, think about stuff like that.
Yeah, we're going to come back to this to start the next hour. We'll also get into some Predator stuff. We'll get into Vanderbilt and their big comeback win against Michigan. They are one win away from getting to the NIT Final Four. They will play UAB on Wednesday. But when we come back, we'll talk about this. It's with Kevin Byard, the number one cap hit among all safeties at 30 years old, 19.6. That's the issue. And Derek just hit the Ryan Tannehill part of it, his cap hit. And I'll throw a third name in, Derrick Henry. Cap hit scheduled to be 16.3. That's just out of line to what even great running backs make in today's NFL. Those contracts are going to be addressed one way or another, it would seem. So when we come back, that's what we'll hit on and get further into the discussion. If you've got something to weigh in on this, please jump in. 615-737-1025. Our call or text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Stay tuned. Hour number 2, Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase is up next.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. Coration CBD products. Coration began as our family's mission to provide the Nashville community with locally and organically sourced CBD products. We are passionate about providing high-quality CBD products for everyday use. Tinctures, topicals, and pet products too. We are a Pick 10 company. Our hemp is organically grown and produced in Nashville, Tennessee from sustainably sourced non-GMO genetics. All of our products are lab tested. Find all of our products at CorationCompany.com.
Cards issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's credit cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Zander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Zander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
Your Game Center update.
This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Nick Keyser. An unmitigated fallout in New York last night as the Preds fell 7-0 to the Rangers. Goaltender UC Saros came in for Kevin Lankinen after the fourth goal of the game. Head coach John Hines weighed in on the loss to the Rangers last night.
Well, I think it's humbling to get beat 7-0. I thought obviously to start the game it wasn't the first period that we wanted or some of the things that we needed to get done. But I think it's something that we certainly can learn from, and we will, and we got to be a better team against Buffalo.
And the Sweet 16 has been set in March Madness. Duke was shut down by the Tennessee Volunteers 65-52. Now the Vols will take on number 9 FAU in New York on Thursday. Michigan State will tip off against Kansas State, while San Diego State has a matchup against Alabama. And the Tennessee Titans have made some signings official today, adding Aziz Al-Shair, Daniel Brunskill, Andre Dillard, Luke Gifford, and Arden Key. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase.
Stone and Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 1063.
Cranks it, he scores. On both sides of the one big possession. Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase here in hour number 2, 1025 The Game. The Game studio brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical. That is Derek Mason back at the studio. Willy Donick here up in Buffalo with the Predators, who are in action tomorrow against the Buffalo Sabres. We're talking about the Titans. They introduced their free agents today. Pretty much budget-heavy free agents, guys who Rand Carthon appears to think are undervalued, not big bucks spent. That's sort of where they are with the roster right now, and that is in the context and in the backdrop of the subject we're talking about right now, is what to do about some of the Titans' staple players who make the most against the salary cap. They don't have a lot of extra room. They know they're trying to sign Jeffrey Simmons. So at the forefront is Kevin Byard, who has a $19.6 million cap hit scheduled. And there's a lot of rumblings about what's going to happen with that. Has he been asked to take a pay cut? What are the options there? There's also Ryan Tannehill, $36.6 million cap hit. And then there's Derrick Henry, 16.3, also scheduled against the cap. The other guy that we haven't really talked about is Harold Landry, coming back after not playing at all last year at 18.8. So, Derek, I'll throw it at you. To me, Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback's a separate thing, right? If you don't have a quarterback, you have no chance of being competitive whatsoever. There's ways to try to get the production back from running back, from safety, etc., as important as Kevin Byard and Derrick Henry are. And that is the really dilemma, because emotionally in the locker room, I would see Mike Vrabel saying, man, it's hard for me to go to battle without Kevin Byard, without Derrick Henry. Those are my guys. Those are the heartbeat. Those are the spine of my team, the heart of my team. But Rand Carthon, coming in from the outside, has got to be looking at it saying, look, the numbers just are out of whack here. We've got to try to address this if we're going to have the strongest roster possible here. So if it's going to happen with Byard, to me, it's probably going to happen on some level with Henry as well eventually.
Yeah, if they don't want to, part ways with Henry. There was sort of, a speculation that, Henry, they were listening to calls, not necessarily putting fillers out, but they were listening to people ask about Derrick Henry. It's since died down, but I'm sure as we get closer to the draft, whether it be Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard, these things will pick back up. Now, even Jeffrey Simmons, he's scheduled to make almost $11 million this season. I know they want to get a deal done with him, so that cap number and that financial hit will be a little bit lower this upcoming season. And they just want him to have a longer term deal. And I'm sure Jeffrey Simmons wants a longer term deal. He doesn't want to go into, this season playing under that tag. And rightfully so. I get it. But guys like Derrick Henry, guys like Harold Landry, Kevin Byard, they may ask those guys, or Kevin Byard, they've asked him to take a pay cut. They may ask Harold Landry to restructure some of that contract to bring the money down. They may ask Derrick Henry to, take a pay cut or restructure or something like that. So, this thing is not done and over with just yet. We heard about the Derrick Henry. Now we're hearing about the Kevin Byard. We heard about the Ryan Tannehill potentially. This thing, I believe, is going to heat back up again once free agency is done and the draft come rolling along, and then after that. Because they want to clear money, not necessarily saying they have to, but I know they want to have more money, in their pocket to play with than not. So you go to a guy like Kevin Byard and see if he wants to take a pay cut again. For what I've gathered, he did not say he wanted to be released, but he did say no, he's not taking a pay cut. Now it's up to the Titans to figure out what they want to do. And we talked briefly. Do you go to Ryan Tannehill? Well, you got to be prepared if you go to Ryan Tannehill. You got to be prepared for Ryan Tannehill to say the same exact thing that Kevin Byard said. Then what are you going to do? Because the two guys that are making the most money, you would potentially ask them to take a pay cut or restructure, and they say no. Then what do you do?
We're going to talk to Teron Davenport about this about an hour from now. We'll get his thoughts. He's been trying to figure out what he can about this situation with Kevin Byard. Also, he was checking in on the 5 free agents that the Titans introduced today. A couple of them have San Francisco backgrounds, which definitely is Rand Carthon putting his stamp on the roster. And we'll take your calls and texts too. 737-1025, area code 615. It's brought to you by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Sunny text, if the Titans are under the cap, then why try to get these guys to take pay cuts? What am I missing? Well, there's Big Jeff, right? That's where you start. And also, I think Rand Carthon wants to be able to have more resources to hit other weaknesses on the roster. It's still the offensive line needs some work. You'd love to beef up your receiving core, I would think. I mean, there's a lot of things that you look at. And, Derek, you've said it all along. The Titans' overall strength of the roster needs some work. So, to me, that's the answer to Sonny's question. But give me your thoughts.
I mean, I'm riding along the lines with you, Willie. Again, the Titans sit in a better place than what they were in regards to the salary cap or monies, they have to pay individual players. But if you are a new GM, you want to have as much sort of, firepower as you can have in regards to dollars. If you got a lot of dollars, then you can go out and make some moves that you probably wouldn't have been able to make. Because there are more moves to come for this team, not just the draft. There are moves that they're going to make after the draft, once individuals start to get cut. And they're making moves now, with, sort of the second or third wave of free agency, in a sense. So they're not going to spend a lot of money getting guys. They're going to get guys for bargain prices, for short-term deals, to help them build this team back up. So to me, the more money, the better, moving forward, especially having a new GM.
Mark and Gallatin text us, rumors Titans may be post-draft dark horse for Lamar Jackson. Are they cutting, or are they thinking about, I guess he's saying, thinking about cutting for that? I would be pretty surprised at that one, D-Mase. I still think Lamar Jackson at the end of the day will be a Raven.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see him not in a Ravens uniform, but it is surprising. I got my own theories, but it is surprising that no team that we heard of has not inquired or have not talked with Lamar about a potential contract. Now, we know what they would have to give up if the Baltimore Ravens don't match it. They would have to give up 2 first-round draft picks, and I don't know, how many teams are willing to give up 2 first-round draft picks. But I always think about stuff like this sort of in the macro sense. If not Lamar Jackson, if this was one of these other quarterbacks, would the teams be making a push to get them on their team and giving up 2 first-round draft picks? Possibly, but you never know. I don't know if the NFL wants to start that precedent of giving, fully guaranteed 3- and 4-year contracts, 5-year contracts. Maybe a year, 2 years, yes, but 3, 4, man, it's like pulling teeth with them. So I don't know if the Titans would be in the market for Lamar Jackson. Now, if they got him, they would have to give up 2 first-round draft picks. And now the Titans willing to give up that.
And I would theorize that to get Lamar Jackson, you have to probably guarantee the salary, which is that's the breaking point of the Ravens. That's why he's in this situation. So you're going to guarantee his salary and give up 2 first-round picks. That's just so that they don't match the offer. If you do anything short of that, the Ravens will probably match the offer anyway and just keep Lamar Jackson. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So would you? So is he? I know he's a great player, but guaranteeing his salary and giving up 2 first-round picks, I don't think I could go that far, especially where the Titans are in the universe right now.
As much as I like Lamar,
in the AFC.
as much as I like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, I don't know if a GM will stomach giving up guarantee close to $200 million, if not $200 million, and 2 first-round draft picks. That means you better win a Super Bowl. That's a fireable offense if you don't get to the Super Bowl and win it. It truly is, because you're giving up all of these assets to get a quarterback, and you guaranteeing him, 3, 4 years, possibly even 5 years. That's great for the player. I'm all for the player. But I also think about it from the other side. As much as I am pro player, and I feel Lamar should get a guaranteed contract, just like I think Mahomes and Burrow and those guys should get guaranteed contracts, I understand the other side of it too. I understand, the business side of guaranteeing a guy and giving up 2 first-round draft picks. If it doesn't work, man, you set your franchise back a lot of years.
When we come back, we will shift gears. We'll talk about Vanderbilt and their win in the NIT, and I will also vent one more time about why I thought they should have been in the NCAA tournament. But I give them a lot of credit for continuing to play hard. They're now 1 game from New York City and getting to the NIT. They've got to beat a very, very good UAB team who's the 4 seed out of their bracket. It's got 27 wins on the year. D-Mase and I will talk about it. A miraculous comeback against Juwan Howard and the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday at Memorial Gym. So we'll take a segment on that when we come back. Don't forget, Teron Davenport at 1 o'clock. We'll get back into the Titans and their situation heavy at that time. We'll also touch on the Predators before this hour is over as well. A tough loss in New York against a very, very hot Rangers team right now. Where does that leave Nashville with where they're going right now? Stay tuned. You're listening to Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, time to tell you about Loan Pronto. I've been getting this message out. This is what Loan Pronto wants you to know. If you're looking for cash right now and you don't want to do a full home refi, you can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment to pay it back. So stop the madness and save some big money each month to go attack those high interest loans you might have out, credit card bills, car loans, etc. Maybe you want to start a home improvement project, need some cash for it. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. So you take that cash you got, and you go after those credit card bills. Get that credit card bill to nothing. Or pay the money you're looking for to add value to your house with a good home improvement project, or whatever you want to use those funds for. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity. 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. It's a very easy process. So call now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
If you compare a diamond from Genesis Diamonds to one you find somewhere else, one thing will always stand out. The Genesis diamond is, well, prettier and more brilliant.
We will show you why our diamond's light performance is significantly greater than things you can get elsewhere.
Genesis Diamonds Vice President David Cooper.
Not just because of the color and the clarity, but because of things a certificate can't tell you. Because of the characteristics, the personality, the material.
It's the extra step in quality control that comes from an owner obsessed with perfection.
Our owner is incredibly picky when he buys diamonds, searching through hundreds just to get a handful. You will not see diamonds that have the fire at your average mall store or chain store or smaller independent, because they don't have the access worldwide like Genesis Diamonds does. Our diamond's light performance, character, and explosive brilliance is bar none the best your money can buy.
Don't compromise with a diamond that just looks good on paper. Get a diamond that reflects your love in the best light possible.
This diamond has to be spectacular.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Back at you, Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Got a little bit of, what's that? Why am I not, why am I forgetting the name of the song? Don't tell me, Nick. Man. Time.
No. I couldn't hear it. I could not hear
it's
it.
Jungle Love. I know it's Jungle Love.
Oh, it's
but,
Jungle Love, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the group is time. It's
Oh,
time.
yeah. Morris Day and the Time.
Morris
Oh,
Day,
yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
I couldn't hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a little Purple Rain
I didn't know if
soundtrack
you were
right there.
guessing the song.
No,
or
not the
artist?
song. I knew what the song was. I
Okay.
was thinking like, man, it was slipping my mind. Yeah, but it's the time, Morris Day. Everybody knows that.
A great cameo role in
Uh-huh.
Purple Rain by Morris Day and the Time. They are kind of the adversary for Prince and the Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pretty strong stuff.
That was his laugh.
Speaking of back in the day, it was a lot of fun watching ESPN's broadcast. I didn't see it live. It was right head up with the Predators-Jets game, but I went back and watched it. And ESPN had a good broadcast of Vanderbilt and Michigan. And on the color analysis was Corey Alexander, who was also a really good college player in the 90s at Virginia and played in the NBA for a while. So he was a contemporary of both Jerry Stackhouse and Juwan Howard. So there was a lot of nostalgia going back and forth of the great playing careers, long NBA careers of Stackhouse and Howard. So it was a fun matchup. Michigan, with their great center, Hunter Dickinson, was given Vanderbilt all kinds of trouble. I would have loved to have seen that game with Liam Robbins going up against Dickinson. That would have been a great head-to-head matchup. But as it was, Michigan was leading by 8 with 1 minute to go, and Vanderbilt came back and won. They caused some turnovers very late, 2 or 3 in a row. And Hunter Dickinson was called for goaltending on what ended up being the game-winning shot by Tyron Lawrence. So they really pulled it out of the fire, D-Mase, and so a little more Memorial magic for Jerry Stackhouse. That's now, 12-2 in their last 14.
Yes, they're playing really good basketball right now. And yeah, I know Vanderbilt fans are out there saying, see, we should have been in the tournament. Those teams that went ahead of us, they are already gone. And look at us. We're still playing in NIT. And you're right. I mean, I don't think people look at the NIT as, some grandiose thing. But it does give Vandy more opportunities to play basketball and to gain that experience. And we talked about this before the tournament started when we found out they were making it. I said that to me, and I think they have a good shot at doing this. They play UAB when, today or tomorrow, somewhere around there.
Tomorrow? No, I'm sorry, Wednesday at 6
okay.
is when they play.
They play UAB. But if this team, to me, because they were sort of, I don't know if they were the last 4 out or the first 4. I think they might have been the first 4 out. But if they go on and get into the NIT championship game and win it, it should put the committee on notice. Like, there has to be, if you watch Vanderbilt, that last month of the season. Hell, if you watched them during the season, that was a good basketball team. They dealt with injuries to arguably their best player, and they had some really good wins on their resume. Now, they had a few bad losses as well, but I think their huge wins overshadowed, at least in my eyes, overshadowed some of their bad losses, whether it be the Grambling or the 50-point debacle versus Alabama. Now, Alabama is the best team in the country, or one of, if you don't want to consider them the best team, they're no lower than number 2. But you can't, even with that, you can't lose to Alabama by close to 50 points or 50 points.
You know what? I agree with you. When you feel like you're snubbed, and I'm sure Vanderbilt did. I mean, I know they did. Jerry Stackhouse in the post-game press conference had a funny line. I don't know if you heard it, Derek, but he was saying, what do you think of how the SEC teams are playing in the NCAA tournament? He goes, I'm rooting for them. He goes, I don't think I've ever rooted for Kentucky before, but I want them to win because we have a good league. And he said, we also kicked that ass of a lot of those teams. So he's kind of sticking it to the committee, saying, we were 11-7 in this league. We played Kentucky 3 times. We played Tennessee twice. We played Alabama twice. So it's not like the league schedule was soft. The league schedule was the toughest among the teams. So he's unquestionably still bitter about it. But what I like about what Vanderbilt has done is there have been a number of times that they could have just folded up shop and crumbled. When they lost to Grambling, that was a tough situation. You shouldn't have lost to Grambling.
No.
But they stayed confident. They kept playing well. Then they beat Arkansas, who's still playing in the Sweet 16. And then right after that, Liam Robbins got hurt before they played Alabama the first time. So they went 5 games without playing without Liam Robbins. And they still hung in there. They were competitive. They lost some games, but they were still right in there. Then they got Robbins back and started knocking teams off. Then he gets hurt again. Could have been easy to fold up the shop at that point. But they beat Kentucky twice. They beat Mississippi State. Then they get snubbed in the tournament. Don't get a bid to the NCAA. And they've kept on winning 2 games where you do see that sometimes in the NIT. The disappointment of not making the NCAA, you lose some intensity. You're not really dialed in, and you lose. That's what happened at Clemson, right? Clemson was one of the teams considered. They didn't get a bid, and they got beat in the first round of the NIT. I've seen that happen to a lot of teams. So I really commend Vanderbilt for playing with a chip on their shoulder and they've stayed in the fight when it would have been easy to say, yeah, you know what, we got screwed, forget about it.
Yeah, it would have been, but they continue to play tough. They beat a good Michigan team, and it's hard for me to say that. But they beat it's not a great Michigan team, but it's a good Michigan team. If you watch them throughout the year, they've had some good wins, but they've been up and
tough
down.
Schedule.
Yeah,
very tough schedule.
Exactly. But they've been sort of like Vandy. They've been up and down, and I don't think they had to deal with as many injuries to key guys as Vandy. But, Juwan Howard has, kept that team fighting up until that point to where they played Vandy. And, to me, that was a good win for Vandy. Albeit it was at home, but to beat a Michigan team and then move further along. Now they got UAB Wednesday. And this team can, if they continue to play the way they have been, they can find themselves, in a championship game if things continue to go the way they have been.
Now, I was just texted, and I want to thank this texter because I just learned something. I didn't know this. I was sitting there. I was taking pictures of the Empire State Building, Madison Square Garden. I was going back to the day when I was a freshman at Vanderbilt. We won the NIT at Madison Square Garden. I was getting all this nostalgic, and I was going to send a text or send a tweet out, hey, Commodores, you're 1 game from getting back here. And JC in Goodlettsville says, hey, Willie, the NIT Final Four is now in Las Vegas. I was like, what? How can that be? You can't move the NIT from New York. That's the whole point of still having the NIT is the nostalgia of playing at Madison Square Garden. What happened? They moved it. Hey. I looked it up. It's true. The semifinals and the title game are now in Vegas. I don't know what happened there.
They decided to move it.
I don't know why they did that.
Hey.
Come on.
They wasn't thinking about you, Willie, I'll tell you that.
They weren't thinking about me. I'm glad I didn't put, I would have looked like a complete idiot if I started putting out tweets and stuff from New York saying, hey, come on up there. Let's go, Commodore fans. Let's come on up. Willie, the games aren't here. The games are in Las Vegas.
Man. Yeah, that would have been
so
real
thank
bad.
you, JC, for saving me from looking like a complete fool.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I mean, if you look at, what they were able to do against Michigan. Now, they didn't shoot particularly well from the three-point line. They're going to have to get better because –
That's right. That's what I was impressed with because they did not shoot very well from the outside in that game. And they're going to need to shoot better. You're right.
Yeah, they're going to need to shoot better. I mean, Lawrence had a big game. Ezra, as usual, he was consistent. Colin Smith, he contributed double-digit points. They're going to have to get more points from other guys, and they're going to have to, find some points from their bench. I don't know how deep Coach Stackhouse goes. Was it 7, 8?
Yeah, and remember, Miles Studi decided to hit the transfer portal, which is another stroke of adversity they were hit with. He decided before the season was over to hit the transfer portal, which I don't get. This is so dumb to me. You shouldn't be able to go into the transfer portal until the college basketball season is over. And so that needs to be addressed. But you're right. They're going to have to be at their best because don't sleep on UAB. I think when that point spread comes back, I don't know. It's not going to be Vanderbilt as a heavy favorite at all. I think UAB you're going to find is really good. They're 27-9 on the season. They won the Conference USA title last year. So be ready for that to be a dogfight. No question about it. Andy Kennedy has done a really good job. The former coach at Ole Miss, he used to play at UAB. In fact, when I was playing at Vanderbilt, he was playing for UAB. We actually played head-to-head at Memorial Gym, I can remember. My freshman year, both of us had hair. Now we're both going with the Chris Mason look. So that'll be fun. Wednesday at 6, one game to get to the NIT semifinals, even if it's not at Madison Square Garden. Bummer. All right, when we come back, we will switch gears. We'll talk Preds for a segment. Then we'll get back into the Titans. Remember, Teron Davenport will join us at 1 o'clock. But we'll get a state of the Preds when we come back. 7-0 last night after the Saturday tough loss against Winnipeg, where they almost gutted it out, even after they lost Roman Josi to injury after the first period. Where do they go from here? Stay tuned. We're coming back with more here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Want a chance to win tickets to an upcoming Preds game?
Yes.
Tune in to Robbie and Rexroad every weekday Preds game day at 8:45 for Preds Pick to Click. Guess a goal scorer and win.
I'll take Roman Josi.
Matt Duchene. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are referred so often. And by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Preds Pick to Click.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Time to tell you about Lee Company. They do sponsor our Predators radio coverage, which continues tomorrow from here in Buffalo. Starting at 5 o'clock, we'll have our pregame show brought to you by Lee Company. Lee Company also has all of your services ready to go. It's still cold on and off here. We're in that transitional part of the calendar, but remember, in the coming days, the coming weeks, you're going to need that air conditioning. And if you haven't had it checked in a while, it's a great time to call 615-567-1000 or make an online appointment at leecompany.com. They'll get that air conditioning running properly for you. It's good to check it now before you get into those hot months. You don't want to get into a crisis situation with that going on. Lee Company, 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. And remember, not only do they service your air conditioning, but your heating, your plumbing, your electric. They've got the package that you can get all full rolled into one with the home maintenance plan. It's outstanding. So call Lee Company today and get involved. Lee Company, let their decades of expertise go to work for you.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands. at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/radio. That's forhims.com/radio for your free online visit. forhims.com/radio.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Every piece of land has a story. Some right there is behind the wheel of a John Deere 1 Series tractor, like the Upshaws.
This is my tractor Penny. It's all about attention to detail.
But the Nelsons love cruising around their expansive Montana ranch in their John Deere Gator UV.
We've been here since 1868.
While the Caggianos drive a John Deere zero-turn mower to keep their Long Island brewery looking sharp.
Don't call me, don't bother me. I'm going out to mow for a couple hours.
Run with us and start telling your story. Learn more at johndeere.com/radio.
When you want live and local,
If they were just better at the offensive line.
You could be a contender in the AFC again.
they've had more winning seasons than not. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years?
The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt football head coach Clark Lee. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game, in the Game Nashville app.
And Jarl Halak picks up the shutout here this evening as the Rangers defeat the Predators by a final of 7-0. Predators outshot by the Rangers here this evening. And what a dominant first period performance by New York. Absolutely incredible.
It was incredible, not in a good way for the Predators. 7-0. The Rangers, who have been a machine here recently, they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-0 on Saturday. Came back and beat the Predators last night 7-0. And in the first period, they scored, if you can believe it, on 6 straight shots. That is something you don't see very often. So Nashville just didn't have it last night after we've talked about for the last few weeks playing unexpectedly well. But D-Mase, this is the thing that I thought sort of caught up to him last night. Every game, they seem to lose another player. Mm-hmm. You know, earlier this week, they lost Ryan McDonough. Now they lose Roman Josi. So now you're down not only 2 great players, but also your leadership group has been compromised. You're replacing those guys with young players or minor leaguers who are fighting to get into the league. And sooner or later, when you're playing a really good team like the Rangers, it's going to catch up to you. And that's what happened last night. You usually can rely on Kevin Lankinen and UC Saros to give you a chance to win. But, they weren't perfect last night. They didn't get a whole lot of help in front of them. And you put it all together, and it was a disaster. But it is only 1 loss. And somehow Winnipeg got shut out by the Blues last night, so they had a chance to bury the Predators and didn't do it. So kind of a weird weekend.
Yeah, the hockey gods are trying their best to forge a path for the Predators to make it into the playoffs. And when you got a young team like this and they made the move that they have made, and we all know why they made those moves. But on top of those moves that have been made, you got key guys now starting to go down. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with it's just, sort of that war of attrition. These older guys got to play more minutes, or they got to do things a little bit different now because this team is so young, and they're pushing because they know in their mind, even though there has been some turnover, we're still in a great position to make a playoff run. And when you're out there each and every night giving it your all, there may be a situation where, you get injured. And, I've been part of injured teams, and you bring in the young guys and you're playing well. But, eventually, reality sets in, and, they are young guys for a reason. And they are getting an opportunity right now for a reason, because if everything was, peachy creamy, a lot of these guys would not be at this level. But they're fighting hard, and they're going out there and they're doing, the best that they can. But when you run into teams that are clearly better than you, I didn't think that, a team had the capability of scoring 7 goals on 7 shots, but I guess the Rangers did. But, I mean, listen, it doesn't take away what this team has been able to do in regards to them being behind the 8 ball. And like you said, there's still a possibility that, the stars align and they're making it into the playoffs.
Yeah, they still have meaningful games.
Yeah.
And that's to their credit. And so just last night, for example, the Rangers, they were a Final Four team last year. They traded for 2 superstars. Vladimir Tarasenko, I don't know if I would say he's a superstar. He's a star. There's no question. Maybe not superstar. Patrick Kane is a superstar, and they've got him. So they added 2 guys like that to a team that was already really good. And they only had 1 regular player that was injured last night, one of their defensemen. So they were relatively healthy for this time of the year. So you have that. And you have the Predators, who are missing 6 regular players after they traded 4 guys, right? On top of that, they're still missing Roman Josi, Ryan McDonough, Alex Carrier, 3 of their top 4 defensemen, Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, Juuso Parssinen, 3 very important forwards when you get down to it. They had, there was a lot of math we were doing. I think they had 41% of their payroll unavailable last night. They had only like $38 million worth of payroll in the lineup as opposed to the Rangers. Very, very, very different. So if you're wondering, how did that happen? How does 7-0 happen? That's how it happened right there. Yeah. So you take away your superstar in Roman Josi, and that's how you wonder. Now, like you said, Derek, if you're in that bunker, you say, look, you start with John Hines and you say, look, there's a formula to win every game. We're going to find a way. There's a way we can still be successful. It just makes it very tough when Roman Josi goes out and you're calling up Jordan Gross, who's a nice player. He's a guy that I think could play in the NHL regularly someday, but he's been most of his career an AHL guy. And so that's who you replace Roman Josi with. That's tough to say you're going to still be able to just keep going. At a certain point, you're kind of running out of solutions when you keep losing top players. Now, the question will be, when will they get some of these guys back? It was reported by Elliot Friedman and I think Dan Rosen, Josi. John Hines did make a comment on it before the game. Day-to-day upper body, and I think he said we're not sure exactly what it is, but that would tell you that it's very, it's hard for me to sit there and say, based on what he said there, that he'll be in there tomorrow. He wasn't with the team yesterday, so that tells you that tomorrow's game against the Sabres probably going to have to find a way without Josi. Will they get anybody else back? I don't know, and there's no timetable on some of these guys. So, to me, for them to stay in the race at some point soon, they've got to start getting some of these guys back. They can't just keep losing guys. There's nobody else to call up.
No, you're right about that. So when is that point where, you look at it and you assess it as a head coach or as a GM in Trotz and say, you know what, let's not rush these guys back. Let's just let these younger guys continue to play this out, because we're at a point now that, it's not going to matter. It's more likely than not that we will prepare for the all season a little bit earlier than what we expected. When does that point come?
I think they're already, I think if you look at Forsberg, for example, we talked about his situation. You saw what happened against the Flyers. He's now missed 18 games. I think he's trying to come back, but you have to be careful with the situation. I remember your passionate discussion about Tua, right, and how the Dolphins handled that. You and Eddie George really got emotional on the air talking about that. I think you got to commend the Predators. They don't want to be in that situation because, hey, we need Philip Forsberg. Let's push him back in there. I think they're being very, very careful with that situation. We know Ryan Johansson is not coming back anytime soon because of his situation, a cut on the leg. Carrier took the shot up into the collarbone area. They gave a timetable for him, 4 to 6 weeks. So there's still a couple more weeks to go on that. Ryan McDonough, we're not sure. It's been 4 games now without him. He's such an important player. Yuso Parson is the other one where I'm not really sure what the timetable is on him. We know how vague they are. But as far as your question, Derek, I think when they're ready to come back, they'll come back. I think what they would like to do, whether they make the playoffs or not, is to keep putting the young players that they really have an eye on for the coming years, keep putting them in situations where the game has intensity and has meaning, so you can get a true evaluation. What you don't want is for the last 6 to 10 games, let's say a guy scores 5 goals and 6 assists in the last 10 or 11 games, but you're out of it. Is that really a true indicator of what that guy is going forward? I think you get a much truer thing if you're saying, okay, you're still in the race. This game meant something, and he was able to produce.
No, you're right. So, I've just wondered, with these injuries, would it even be, I'm not going to say smart, but would it even, matter if you brought those guys back in or not? Or would you just say, you know what, let's just rest these guys and get them to the offseason as healthy as possible and sort of go down that route?
Yeah, it's a fair question. It's something I'm sure that they will look at. But as long as they're mathematically in it the way they are, I think their mindset will still be, how quick can we get some of these guys back? It's been really frustrating. And up until last night, it had been really admirable. I thought they might find a way to pull it out against the Jets. They had a shot even after losing Yossi, but it just caught up to them. And the greatest example would have been in the overtime. Usually, who's out there in that 3-on-3? Who's perfect for the 3-on-3? Roman Yossi. He zooms all over the place. He can play long stretches, and they didn't have him. So they had to play Jeremy Lauzon, who is a good player, but he's just not the type of player that's going to be able to cover all that ice in the 3-on-3. He hadn't been out there before, and he was exploited on the game-winning goal. Just one example of what happened, when you're short critical players like that. McDonough would usually play 3-on-3. Carrier would usually play 3-on-3. Ekholm played 3-on-3. You need that one defenseman in there. So other than Tyson Barrie, they really didn't have somebody that has played a lot of 3-on-3 overtime minutes. So the lack of depth does catch up eventually. But we'll see what happens tomorrow against Buffalo. Buffalo also lost 7-0 yesterday to the Boston Bruins. So you're going to have 2 teams that are trying to figure it out, and they will be very angry that they lost 7-0 in their previous game. When we come back, we'll start looking ahead to Teron Davenport at 1 o'clock. We'll go through some of the Titans situations here as we move forward. Stay tuned. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 102.5 The Game for the 2nd annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
See the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
It's Quaz with Little Harpeth, and I'm just having one of our Chicken Scratch American Pilsners. It's one refreshing beer and a good example of the German lagers that we craft right here in Nashville. Chicken Scratch is made with locally sourced raw white corn, giving it a subtle cornbready sweetness. And speaking of sweetness, Chicken Scratch's closest associate goes by the name of Deer Crossing Hellas, also a lager with a light, crisp body and golden color, and it won us a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival. So be on the lookout for our craft lagers. And as always, thank you for supporting our little brewery.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota compact tractors, rated #1 in durability and owner experience. They're designed for easy operation and feature performance-matched attachments. Right now, put 0 down and get 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800 on select equipment. Now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House today.
For one day only, Saturday, March 25th, get 5+ acres and a new cabin package on sale for only $69.9 during the Nashville Acreage Grand Opening Land Sale. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get the best of both worlds. Flat, usable, prime Nashville acreage with the biggest and most spectacular ridgeline views in the entire Nashville area. Priced below market prices. Come explore this recreational paradise and make your dreams of owning exceptional Nashville acreage a reality for less. With 5+ acres and a new cabin package for just $69.9. Best of all, these properties include first-class infrastructure like county water, electric, and county road frontage. All huge advantages in today's market. Appointment times are filling up fast. Call now to book your private tour. 615-437-6348. That's 615-437-6348. Cabin kit package for materials only. Delivered to site by third party. Taxes and delivery not included. Price is subject to change without notice or obligation. Call for complete details. An equal housing opportunity.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Eastside Bowl in Madison, a vintage bowling alley, music venue, diner, lounge, and arcade designed by locals for locals. And March 28th, don't miss the Battle of Nashville, Nashville's best Rage Against the Machine tribute band. Right now, you can get 2 hours of bowling plus shoe rentals for up to 6 people for just $45. That's 2 hours of bowling plus shoes for up to 6 people, just $45. Go to thegamenashville.com/deals to get yours now.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Why what?
Why have teams let you go?
So with me and San Fran, they told me straight up, we can't offer you anything. If we offer you something, it'll be disrespectful to you. So go test the market out and see. With Jacksonville, it was a shock to me. I ain't gonna lie. After the year, I thought I was gonna be a Jacksonville Jaguar. But I felt disrespected because I came over there, built up the culture, brought a whole lot of energy, changed the city, changed the town, and I felt like I was in my rightful mind. I was gonna be a Jacksonville Jaguar, but that didn't happen. I still love the players, love the teammates, love the city, love the fans, but yeah, we gotta see them twice.
That is Arden Key, introduced today along with the other free agents. The Titans brought up 5, and we're going to talk to Teron Davenport about them to start the 1 o'clock hour. Arden Key will play for a cap hit of $2.9 million, right around there. Mm-hmm. And so compare that in his production to what they were paying Bud Dupree. The idea is you get way more bang for your buck with Key as opposed to Dupree. You could almost make a song about that. It rhymes, but I don't think that's what they had in mind there. But you see what I'm saying? You got it. Yeah. Sort of like you could hear sort of the anger in Arden Key. He feels like he has a chance to be a bigger, more important player in the grand scheme of things. And so he's going to have an opportunity with the Titans there.
Yeah, he is. It's going to have an opportunity now that they've released Bud Dupree, and it's sort of they're retooling that linebacker position, allowing, choosing not to re-sign David Long Jr., cutting Zach Cunningham. So they're retooling that linebacker position and that outside linebacker position, rush in. So Arden Key, he did well playing, under Nico Ryans in San Fran. And, know what type of defense that was, a very aggressive defense. It was one of the top defenses, and it has been in the National Football League. Then he goes to Jacksonville, and he's a integral part in what they were able to do as a team. He thought that he was going to at least, sign, a contract, whether it be for another year or another 3 or 5 years. He thought at least he would be there, considering what he showed them, Jacksonville, last year. But, he was a role player for Jacksonville. He wasn't a starter for that team. So they felt that they could possibly, move on from him and find somebody else at that position. So it's going to be, interesting to see what he brings to this team, because it's not like he's a huge sack guy, but he does pressure the quarterback, and he hasn't started a lot as a player. So into the season with 4.5 sacks. So it's going to be interesting to see what he brings. And I'm sure Shane Bowen can get more, some more out of him this year, considering he is a young player. So he went from one great defense in San Fran to a good defense and a young defense in Jacksonville. Now he's coming to another really good defense that loves to pressure the quarterback from the outside. So he's going to get his opportunity to get to the quarterback. Now, he said he felt disrespected. Well, you got to go out there and produce now. So we'll see what happens.
And I can't get away from the theme of all of these guys. Guys who ran Carthon, especially a couple of them that have San Francisco ties. Mm-hmm. He has a background. He has a knowledge on them. Also, there's that analytic look. He feels like they're undervalued. And take a look at what he got him for, right? We just mentioned Arden Key, what he counts against the cap. Not much. Not much at all. Arden Key, 2.8. Aziz Al-Shire, 2.2 million. So they're hoping to get something close, if not better, than the guys he's replacing for a lot less money. Daniel Brunskill, 1.9 against the cap. Luke Gifford, 1.7 against the cap. And I'm looking for Dillard on the spot rack, and I'm not finding him right now. What is he counting against the cap?
I don't know if it's
because he's that's another guy, obviously, that they think. In fact, I'm looking at it, there's no salary attached to his name on spot rack, so I'm not sure what's going on with his salary. It's not been put on there, but he's a guy that, as we discussed, they feel like he has a chance to start. He's been playing behind somebody really good, and they think he's better than a backup per se, and he was available.
Yeah, they're hoping that these guys that they brought in, whether it's Luke Gifford, Al Shayer, Brunskill, or Dillard, or Arden Key, and I'm really Arden Key and the other defensive guys. They're hoping that they can come in and elevate their play at a price that is helpful, and that's minimum for the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if they look at these guys as long-term fixes. Possibly, depending on how they play this upcoming season, they can be. But these are guys that they have targeted that they feel are Vrabel-type guys that Ran Carthon has known and has watched in practice and, know the personality, so to speak. So you bring them in here and you just hope that they elevate their play a little bit more. Not to say that these guys
they're hungry,
exactly,
and take the opportunity. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll talk to Teron about that next. Teron Davenport, ESPN.com, talking with TD, always up on the Titans. He'll start the 1 o'clock hour with us next here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments, extra results vary.
615 Chutney. You might recognize the name. Real Nashvillians know the 615 Chutney food truck used to be the spot. Now they have a full restaurant in Bellevue. Make no mistake, it's a new look with live music, an art gallery, and even a robot server. Yeah, a lot has changed, but it's still the same old Chutney. They still serve up authentic and delicious South Indian cuisine to hundreds of satisfied customers every week. And they've become a Nashville staple along the way. Just ask around. Open for dine-in, carry out, and delivery through Grubhub. That's 615 Chutney in Bellevue, a very Indian affair.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Now, your Game Center update.
This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Nick Keyser. An unmitigated fallout in New York last night as the Preds fell 7-0 to the Rangers. Goaltender UC Saros came in for Kevin Lankinen after the 4th goal of the game. Head coach John Hines weighed in on the loss to the Rangers last night.
Well, I think it's humbling to get beat 7-0. I thought obviously to start the game it wasn't the first period that we wanted or some of the things that we needed to get done. But I think it's something that we certainly can learn from, and we will, and we got to be a better team against Buffalo.
And the Sweet 16 has been set in March Madness. Duke was shut down by the Tennessee Volunteers 65-52. Now the Vols will take on number 9 FAU in New York on Thursday. Michigan State will tip off against Kansas State, while San Diego State has a matchup against Alabama. And the Tennessee Titans have made some signings official today, adding Aziz Al-Shair, Daniel Brunskill, Andre Dillard, Luke Gifford, and Arden Key. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 1025 and 1063.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase here. Final hour of the show. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, and Teron Davenport to start this hour. As we talk some Titans, they introduced the 5 free agents today, and there's still a lot to be done with the Titans roster. We'll get into it with TD here in just a moment. Caroline is out today. Just a quick reminder, if your brackets are busted, mine are. Sign up and play the official 16-team game bracket challenge. So you get a fresh start. A fresh start with the Sweet 16. And the 16-game bracket challenge is brought to you by Twin Peaks, home of the 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports and the Bluffs at Rocky Ridge. Enjoy the biggest and best views in the Nashville area from your dream acreage home site. Call now, 866-GET-LAND. So that's something you can go to thegamenashville.com and check out. TD is with us. So, TD, first of all, give us your impressions of the new guys.
Yeah, I tell you, well, yeah, we'll start with Arden Key. I love the energy in talking to him, and you could feel that he is going to fit in. And when you look at just the way he talked about pass rushing and the way he talked about taking it personally, how he thought he was going to be back with the Jaguars after the year he had. And that was even though they got Walker and Josh Allen starting at the same position. He still felt that he was going to be back. They didn't bring him back. I love the fact that he said he took it personally. And he said, the culture that he learned in San Francisco, the winning culture, he said it was something that he brought to Jacksonville and he plans to bring here to Nashville. So I think that's good for that team. And then, like I said, just the energy. He's a guy that in watching him, you could tell that his presence is felt and his energy. But I think when you lose a David Long and you bring that in, that helps supplement that. And then in addition to that, the play, the way that Azeez Al-Shire plays, I think you combine those two, and that kind of helps you make up for the loss of David Long and the release of Bud Dupree. So the energy there in the defense is back, in my opinion. That's one of the things David Long always said, like, when I'm out there, I want you to feel my presence. I want you to feel me. And I think that you're going to get that as a combination between Key and Al-Shire.
Now, do you think he is
we were just reading off the salaries of the guys too, and they're all fairly inexpensive. So I think the idea is bang for your buck there. Fair to say?
Oh yeah, it's bang for your buck. The Andre Dillard numbers haven't come out yet. We're still waiting on that, but yeah, I think that's the whole idea with all of the signings between Daniel Brunskill, Luke Gibbons?
Yeah, Luke Gifford. Yeah,
Luke Gifford.
Yeah.
I think that's the common thread for all the guys.
Now, with these guys, do you think, especially someone like Arden Key, because if you watched him the last couple of years, he was in San Fran, D'Amico Ryans, who's now the Houston Texans head coach, that was an aggressive defense. Like he said, he brought that winning culture to Jacksonville, but he still wasn't a every down linebacker. Can he be a every down linebacker here, or at least a 2-down linebacker? Because his responsibilities are going to grow tremendously here.
Yeah, I think he can. And the thing is with that, the situations, like especially last year, he was considered as more of a specialist, right? Because, I think that he brings a better pass rush than Walker. Josh Allen is the truth. So I'm going to, cede to Josh Allen from that perspective. So they brought him in a lot of times in pass rushing situations. When you see him in person, he's a lot longer than I thought he was. So I know that length on the outside, being able to get his hands on the offensive lineman first and kind of steer and direct, I think that should allow him to set the edge. But I definitely think that he'll be at least a 2-down personnel guy for sure.
Now, do you see them making any more moves? Because now this would be the second wave of free agency now, and we know a lot of things will potentially happen either during the draft or right after the draft. But do you think they will wait more so after the draft to potentially make what we would call a big splash, or do you think they not go that route? At least not this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a big splash. I don't. Unless there's a trade that they're able to make, I think the big splash is going to be, securing their own guys, right? Namely Simmons. I think that's something that if there's anything, that'll be the splash. I don't see them making the moves, and really it's not much out there to do that with anyway.
TD, I want to ask you about something we've been kicking around a lot, and that is the Kevin Byard situation. And you can sort of couple it with Derrick Henry. As we look at Spot Rack, Kevin Byard is scheduled to make the highest cap hit of any safety at over $19 million a year. Derrick Henry is second only to Ezekiel Elliott in the scheduled cap hit for running backs. And we see what's happening with Elliott. He's going to be released by the Cowboys and become a free agent. So I can see Rand Carthon coming in and saying, these two contracts we would like to take a look at. What can we do with You've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on there. What have you found out?
Well, it is a fact that he was approached about taking a pay cut. That's definitely the case. I will say multiple sources told me that there wasn't any request to be released. He didn't have that question, in the whole situation. But as you said, the number being what it is a higher number. But this is what happens when you, in essence, borrow against the cap.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The can has been kicked down the road, and now the chickens have come home to roost. So, okay, what do you do? Look, you release him, you save $6 million, you still have a $13 million hit. Now, they already have $37 million in dead money. That'll put them up to 50. I don't know if that's something me is, $50 period. I don't like to think about losing that, let alone $50 million. So obviously it's all relative, but still, that's a big number to have in dead money. So I don't know if they release him. It's possible, but that's to me is like it's counterproductive. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously with Derrick Henry, the whole thing about him being shopped, that's semantics. I'm not sure exactly what degree or if that happened for sure, but there's a lot going on, and those are two names that if I was Rand Carthon, I would hate to have to make a decision on those guys because, you know, it takes it back to the McNair and Eddie George parting ways. But this is something that you're doing in a year's time at the same time. At least that, we had you, Derek, and then, McNair and Eddie, and it was over a period of time. Big losses, but in this case, the heart is just being it's Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? Put a hand in the chest and rip the heart right out.
These are special guys. These are super special guys. You would add back in the day, it was Derek, Steve McNair. I think Eddie was the year before. And then Kevin Carter and Samari Roll, two other, really essential players.
It was a gradual inserting in the chest and pulling it out. This one is just one shot.
But you said kicking the can down the road. Isn't that sort of what they did last year with Derrick Henry's contract? Are there some similarities with what they did with his at $16.3 million?
Yeah, they did. And now there's you got the two voidable years. So if they do something next year, it's $4.6 million, which that's probably the time when they do it. Yeah, it's $4.6. If they wait until the following year, which I highly doubt, we're talking 2025, it's 2.3. So they, in essence, just created the voidable years with funny money built into it.
Now, but you have to see this roster from a veteran standpoint of what we are used to over the next two off seasons. It's going to look vastly different. They started it this year. Now, whether they continue is a different story. I've always said, listen, this year is probably the most important off season for this franchise since Vrabel's been here. And then next year is going to be important too, because after that, you want to set this team up so when they walk into that stadium, that they have a winning product. And when I mean winning product, a team that's capable of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's the big thing why the Ryan Tannehill situation is so crazy, because he is 35. He said he has good football left, but you're going to have a quarterback, a new quarterback going into there. So how do you position it to where you don't throw everything away in order to set up to get that quarterback, but you also keep yourself within striking distance? That's the whole crazy part of it. But me personally, I think this year if you move on for Derek, I get it. you can't. Byard needs
Can't
to be
do
in the
both
building.
of them at the same time.
Yeah, you can't do both, and the Byard has to be in the building. He has to be, and they've already established that Tannehill is going to be there. So.
Yeah, those are. I mean, it's like two lungs, right? You can live with one lung. You take out both lungs at the same time, you got problems, right? I mean, those guys are so essential, Henry and Byard. So, Teron, I know you got a lot of things going on. You're preparing for your draft. Do you have time for one more segment, or do you need to run?
Yeah, no, we can do it. I have an interview at 2:00. That's why I'm here. So.
Okay, good. Well, we're glad to have you. So stick around. We'll get a little bit more into this, the Tannehill part of this, and what the options could be in this tricky negotiation with Byard, and foreseeably it could be similar types of discussions with Tannehill and Henry. We'll talk to Teron Davenport when we come back. We'll continue our discussion with the Titans here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. You're listening to Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Spring in and style up with huge savings on top athletic brands at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin. Stay active this spring with up to 70% off the athletic styles you love. Shop deals on thousands of styles from top athletic apparel and footwear brands, like $10 tees, tanks, and shorts for the family, $20 swimwear, $20 golf polos, and running footwear for $60 or less. Find incredible deals and incredible style at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin at Watson Glen.
Hi, this is Warren Moon, 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback and member of the Tennessee Titans Ring of Honor and Pro Football Hall of Fame. On the field, I always wore a helmet and pads to make sure I was protected. Life is no different. That's why I got vaccinated and boosted against COVID-19. Protection keeps you in the game. Talk to your doctor and get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19 today.
For more information, go to nflagearup.org/Tennessee.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willy Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loans. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota, like the aggressively sophisticated Toyota Highlander, with room for up to 8 and the most advanced safety features. Now through April 4th, you can get low 3.99 APR financing on a new 23 Highlander. With approved credit through TFS, excludes hybrids, and every new Toyota comes with 2 years no-cost maintenance included. Get complete details at buyatoyota.com. Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Toyota, let's go places.
All of us at Cromwell Media, who owns this radio station, are recognizing 2 special teammates this month. Andrea Kamer is celebrating her 16th year as our corporate business manager. It's no secret, Andrea is the glue that holds everything together around here. And we're saluting Caroline Fenton, one of our stellar co-hosts of the Midday Show on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, as she wraps up her 2nd year with us. Andrea and Caroline, you are what makes this a special place to work. Want to join our team? Send us a note at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I'll let you try my Wu-Tang style.
Ron Davenport is with us as we continue with Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Don't forget our show, along with Stillman & Company. Of course, Jared's show is coming up at 2 o'clock. Both shows will be at Central Barbecue in Hillsboro Village coming up on Thursday for the Sweet 16. So come by for some great Memphis-style barbecue. Catch your favorite teams competing in the tournament. Again, that's Central Barbecue in Hillsboro Village this Thursday. All right, so TD, we've been talking about the dilemma here that Ran Carthon is in, the special player that Kevin Byard is, presumably same type of dilemma with Derrick Henry's contract situation, even Ryan Tannehill's. Of course, the quarterback is sort of a separate deal. But in your mind, what are the options that you could make this work with Kevin Byard? Forget about the term pay cut or asking for relief. If you want to just work it out, how would you try to go about it?
I mean, really, at this point, you just gotta eat that money. It is what it is, right? The 19 is the 19. It's you borrowed from the Bank of Byard, not you personally, meaning Ran Carthon, the organization.
Yeah,
and you just gotta deal with it. I think it just, to me, $13.6 million in dead money is just it's not worth the around $6 million that you're going to save and cut them. I just can't see that.
Now, what they have done in free agency, they go out and they get them a left tackle, a former first-rounder, Dillard, from Philadelphia. Do you think with that 11th, because this is what I've been trying to figure out, they sort of plugged the hole in their mind at the left tackle position with Dillard. Again, I'm sure they scouted him when he came out.
They did. He was here.
Exactly. So they think highly of him. He had a torn bicep. That's what kept him out for a year. Yeah. But they believe he is obviously you go out and get him, you believe he is a starting left tackle. With that 11th pick, do you think they go opposite? Because now in their mind, they might not need a left tackle. So do they go opposite, get the best player available, whether it be offense or defense, or move down in the draft and pick up extra picks?
Right. That's the thing. And Dillard actually had a fractured forearm, too. That was fractured forearm landed him on IR last year.
Okay.
And that was right around, a little bit before the trade deadline. He had just gotten off IR after the trade deadline because he was someone I had suggested trading for. But as far as the 11th pick, see, that's the thing. So a lot of people point to Dillard's flexibility, his versatility, and they say, hey, well, you know what, you could flip him to right tackle or you could have him play guard. When he was in Philly, especially as a rookie, they talked about right tackle, and he didn't take too well to that. Obviously, he was going to do whatever the team asked.
Yeah.
But, he was saying how, using the old analogy, it's like, hey, man, you're asking me to take – I'm left-handed, and you're asking me to write with my right hand. So that being said, grabbing a left tackle, I don't know. But if Paris Johnson is there, you obviously have to consider it. Skoronski is interesting because he does give you that option of where you could bump him inside and he could be a really good left guard. So now your whole unit is in pretty good shape without people flipping positions, Because I asked Skoronski at the combine, he said he's confident and comfortable playing either guard or tackle.
So with Dillard, TD, you don't think they signed him saying this is a starter? He just hasn't had. There are circumstances, and of course the Eagles have a great offensive line. He's not playing behind pigeons here, right? This guy. But so what's their vision? Do they see a starter?
Well, yeah. I mean, the money, the details haven't come out, which means that it's not going to be a home run type of deal for the agent, because otherwise, one of his media connections would have posted the numbers. But I think they signed him to be the starter at left tackle. But more importantly, they put themselves in a situation where you don't go into the draft at number 11 saying, hey, I have to go left tackle. Now, okay, a guy like Jalen Carter, if he's there, you think about it now. Christian Gonzalez, if somehow he's there, you think about it now. Devin Witherspoon, and this is regardless of whether or not them signing Sean Murphy-Bunting. These guys are there. Now you got to think about it. You know what I mean? Because you're not focused on just getting a left tackle. Like, it keeps you from having to reach, long story short. I think that's the good part of it.
Okay, what about Brunskill? Do you see utility, or do you see him plugged in starting somewhere?
Well, a lot of people don't realize 2021 he had 17 starts at right guard. The year before, he had multiple starts at right guard, but also center. The year before that, he had 7 at tackle. So you are getting versatility, but I think he's going to be the right guard. That's how I look at it. He's going to be the guy that's going to be next to Petit Ferrar on the right side. And, you know, Brewer will probably bump inside to play center, although there are, like, you look at Steve Avila out of TCU, he's the guy that I could see coming in. He gives you guard, center, flexibility. You're not going to have to use a day 1 pick for sure. Probably not a day 2 pick. Now you're working with something, you know, and there are other guards. And that's the thing about this draft. You talk about receiver and left tackle. It's a little sketchy as far as top end side of it, but the depth is all throughout this draft at that position. Also, guard, there's depth throughout the draft. I know Washington, his name is Jackson Kirkland. He's 6'7", 321. He's a tackle/guard. Projects to play guard. He's the guy that the Titans have spoken to. So there's another guy. You got Osiris Torrance out of Florida, you know, where Rand Carthon went. He's another one. They had a formal with him at the Combine. So they're doing their homework. The thing that's just interesting to me is I haven't been able to connect them to a center other than the mandatory meet. Like, if somebody tells you, hey, so-and-so met with X team at the Senior Bowl, yeah, so what?
Okay.
Every team meets with every player there. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean anything.
That's why it's there.
It's a little bit different at the Combine, but then also when you get into these top 30 visits.
Now, do you think they believe, because now that they went out and got Dillard, they got Brunskill, yes, they have to figure out that center position, whether it's Brewer or Core 11 or somebody else they bring in.
Yeah.
Do you think they believe Nicholas is a future right tackle in this league for them?
That's the tough part. I think, you know, Vrabel, when he spoke about Petit Ferrar, it was about the penalties, you know, but he did make strides throughout the year. Obviously, he wasn't, you know, a top level. He was a rookie, 3rd-round pick. I think getting him to have 15 starts, that's solid production there. I don't know, because he does have that flexibility to where you could flip him to the left. You could bump him inside to guard. I think ideally they keep him there, and then they go about finding the center left guard type of solution. And Corey Levin, you mentioned him, he's a free agent. But he's one of those low-cost free agents. Like, I don't think it would make sense not bringing him in.
Just to have the depth.
To have the depth at the very least.
So it's interesting. So as we look at the offensive line right now, of course, it's not a full picture yet. It's not come into focus. But Petit Ferrar at right tackle. Let's just say it for now. Let's say Brunskill at right guard or left guard. What's better for him?
Right.
TD.
He's had
right guard.
Yeah.
So we say Brewer at center, TBD at left guard, right? And then let's just pencil in Dillard at left tackle. As it stands now, and we know the draft and further moves. Is that basically a picture? Who am I missing?
No, I think that is what it is. Left guard and center are the positions in somewhat question, but you look, the tender that they put on Aaron Brewer is, $4 million. He's going to start at one of those positions. Yeah. And I think you go back to when he first got here, he was projected as kind of the future option at center. He's your starting center in essence. So left guard is what you're looking to fill.
He needs to put on some more weight, though. But I know it's hard for a guy like that, because he can put on the weight in the offseason, and then once you get in 2 days, well, 1 a days, but once you get into camp, you drop the weight anyway.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because that's what Aziz Al-Shire said. He wanted to – he said he plays at 225 to 227, but he wanted to go into camp at 230 in anticipation of losing that couple pounds. Now, with Aaron Brewer is interesting, because I wanted to do a story about him throughout the year. So we talked about his weight a lot, and there were some things that he was doing. He said, now I don't know that I believe it all the way, but he said, like, towards the end of the year, he said that he was up to 290, 295.
Okay.
And ironically, if you look in the directory or whatever, on the team site, it does say 295. but it also says 270 something too. So you don't know which one it is.
It fluctuates.
Yeah, it fluctuates. That's a big fluctuation.
What's his ceiling? What do we think his ceiling is? Can he get to another level at this point in his career, or is he what he is?
I think he could get to another level. I like him more at center. He's someone, it goes back to, now understand, like, I'm not comparing greatness. I'm comparing the things that you could do, right? You look at Dermontti Dawson, you look at Jason Kelce, where these are centers where you could pull and let them get out in space and block because of their athleticism. Aaron Brewer is the same type of guy. No, I'm saying same type of guy. Again, I'm not saying
with the athleticism that you can do those things.
We're just talking about just as an athlete. He's the same type of guy as those guys were and are in Kelce, who's coming back. I'm glad he's coming back. I love Jason Kelce. But different conversation. I think he can unlock to help out in that way.
TD, great stuff as always. I know you're going to keep grinding away with your draft preparation. We can't wait for that. So I know you got to get to work on that. Thanks for stopping by. And can we have a moment of silence for the injury to Edwin Diaz? The trumpets will not be sounding for a while. Yeah. I'm still crushed and trying to get over that. So we'll have to try to overcome.
Yeah, man, I did ESPN Radio on Sirius on Saturday, and we did a segment on that. And the first time I heard Narcos by Tommy Trumpet, it was the first time I ever heard it, and I didn't feel good about it. So, yeah, definitely moment of silence.
Exactly. Oh, man. All right, TD, we'll talk another day. We'll talk off air about the Mets. We'll get through it.
I need
thanks for coming on. Talking with TD, always great to have him stop by Talking Titans with him. D-Mase and I will come down the home stretch of the show. We'll get back into the brackets. Tennessee is in the Sweet 16 with a great opportunity against 33-3 Florida Atlantic coming up on Thursday. Stay tuned. We're coming back with more here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5 The Game.
Hi, I'm UC Saros. And this is Smashville.
Now here's a try off to the side. What a stop made by UC Saros there.
Unreal. You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter, but it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
We pride ourselves on being transparent, opening up the books, and sharing all the secrets of the diamond industry. We have a passion for this, and part of having a passion is sharing that passion.
Genesis Diamonds Vice President David Cooper says, at Genesis, you don't just get an entry-level course in diamonds, you get a PhD.
We love educating our customers, even over-educating our customers about diamonds and gemstones, so they can truly see the difference in what we offer.
At Genesis, diamonds are not a side business. It's their only business.
We eat, breathe, and sleep diamonds.
So whether you end up buying at Genesis or not, come for the education.
The better educated we can make you at Genesis Diamonds, the better a shopper you're going to be, whether you shop with us or anyone else. You will be able to tell the difference and know what you are buying, so you make the best decision for you.
Genesis Diamonds, proud to offer one of the largest selections of GIA certified diamonds in the nation, with no middleman markups, no retail pricing games, no commission salespeople, and no nonsense. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
We do screen printing.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do embroidery.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do large format printing.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do promotional goods.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do graphic design.
Music City Screen Prints.
mcscreenprints.com. That's mcscreenprints with an S.com. 615-866-6010.
You think it, we print it.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands. at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/radio. That's forhims.com/radio for your free online visit. forhims.com/radio.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, this is Pekka Rinne. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
All right, Pekka, good to hear from you. The statue unveiling, by the way, is coming up on Saturday for Pekka Rinne. That will be a very special day. And for Predators fans, don't forget Wednesday night will be the next edition of Smashville Live at Brewhouse South at Cool Springs from 6 to 7. It'll be Alex Carrier and Jeremy Lauzon. You can get up close and personal, get autographs and pictures. Smashville Live is brought to you by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, Little Harpeth Beer, Superbook Sports, and Dulce Vida, tequila, pure and simple. So, March Madness is going. And the college basketball season continues for both Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Vanderbilt got the dramatic win in the NIT. They're one win away from the NIT semifinals in Las Vegas. They will take on a very, very tough UAB team on Wednesday at Memorial Gym. So they get three home games. Back in 1990, when I was part of Vanderbilt's team that won it, that's how we got there. Got home court advantage, took advantage of 3 home games, and then went to New York and won 2. So hopefully history repeats. Meanwhile, for Tennessee, they're in the Sweet 16, and they get a chance to play another team from Conference USA, Florida Atlantic. Very interesting how that is unfolded. FAU got the big win over Memphis by 1 point, controversial ending, so to speak. And then they got to play the 16 seed, Fairleigh Dickinson, who shocked the world with the win over Purdue. And so FAU will play Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Meanwhile, D-Mase is fired up because his Spartans from Michigan State upset Marquette yesterday. So they're in the Sweet 16 against K-State, who knocked off Kentucky. So D-Mase is fired up.
Now, was
D-Mase,
that really?
how are you doing in the bracket?
Was that really a upset like that? I mean, come on. If y'all been watching,
7 over a 2, that's an upset.
But I mean, it's Izzo. It's Izzo in Spartan basketball. I could see if they were playing Alabama and beat Alabama. Okay, that's an upset because you don't expect it to happen because of how good Alabama is. But come on, Marquette. Yeah, that was prime for Izzo to win that game. Come on now. Come on, Willie, you know. Man.
I'm just saying, from the outside world, D-Mase, not your world, it was considered somewhat of an upset. We're not talking FDU over Purdue here. We're talking about a little bit of an upset, a 7 over a 2. But, yeah, I know you believe in your Spartans. And you know what? I think it'll be a toss-up. I looked at the line. I think the line is 1 for the game against Kansas State. So that one should be really, really good. In fact, I was looking at some odds early. These are early lines. Michigan State is a 1-point favorite over Kansas State, even though they're a lower seed. I didn't see the line against Marquette, so I don't. When I say upset, I don't even know if it was a big upset but I figured a 7 over a 2. Tennessee is a 5.5-point favorite. People might be surprised; it's not that much. But remember, FAU's 33-3. Arkansas is a 3.5-point underdog against UConn. Gonzaga and UCLA, that's a 1-point spread. San Diego State is a 7-point dog against Bama. Miami, a 7-point dog against Houston, the 1 seed. Xavier, a 4.5-point dog against Texas, who's playing really well. Princeton is the biggest underdog, a 10-point dog against Creighton. And speaking of Texas, Dylan Dessou, a Vanderbilt transfer, had a huge game in their win in the second round over Penn State. So I know Vanderbilt fans were going, oh, what could have been
What could have been
stayed.
if he only stayed at the what is it, Black and Gold? Had he only stayed at the Black and Gold? But I mean, you look at this tournament, and it happens every year where there's upsets here and there. I think the biggest upset in regards to who I had in the finals, I still got Alabama, but I think that Purdue game, and you and I talked about this early, that Purdue game, I'm sure busted a lot of people's bracket. You're talking about a number 1 seed going down to a 16th seed. How many times does that happen?
That's the second time ever. Second time ever.
So, we're getting exactly what we want. Maybe Purdue fans didn't want this, but we're getting exactly what we wanted, and that's madness in March. And I look at Michigan State, and they're still dancing. They're still cabbage patching their way, through the tournament. And, I can see them, even though I do have them. I have them in the Final Four playing Alabama. But, on a good night, everything has to be perfect. They could beat Alabama. I think a lot of it would come down to the head coaches and how they coach, but they're not there yet. They still got the Sweet 16 opponent in Kansas State, who didn't shoot well at all versus Kentucky. But the problem is Kentucky didn't shoot well either. Hopefully, the Spartans can shoot a lot better than Kentucky did, because Kentucky had open shots. They had opportunities to knock down baskets, and they just didn't do it.
It's interesting. The net rankings, which I have talked about a lot, as most people know, because I'm still bitter.
Hey, Willie, you still bitter?
I'm still bitter. I'm admitting it. I'm still admitting it. Vanderbilt was 80th in the net rankings. But I will say this about the net. The net basically mirrors the Ken Pom basketball efficiency ratings. And it is interesting to note that the top 7 teams ranked in the Ken Pom all are still alive. Houston 1, Alabama 2, UCLA 3, Connecticut 4, Texas 5, Tennessee 6, Gonzaga 7. That's where they rank right now. They're all still alive. Michigan State is 25th, still alive. Miami 32nd, still alive. That's the lowest team, other than Princeton, who's 91. Right, they're sort of the surprise guest in the Sweet 16. So the efficiency has played out, and the case in point would be Arkansas, right? 22-13 is their record. A lot of people were like, Arkansas, people were even questioning why were they, head and shoulders in for sure when their record wasn't all that impressive. They were 8-10 in the SEC. Vanderbilt beat them. Now, I always thought that Arkansas was clearly an NCAA tournament team, but it does kind of show you they slumped down the stretch. They didn't play great, but they were losing to good teams. They lost their last 3 regular season games to Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and they sort of limped in. Then they beat Auburn in the SEC tournament and then lost to Texas A&M. So they lost 4 of their last 5, but they've turned around and played really well and beat Kansas in the second round. So they've been vindicated by all that were sort of questioning them.
Yeah, they have. And this is just as well as anybody else, Willie. It's how are you playing when you head into the tournament, or do you get on a streak in the tournament, or it's all about matchups? The word is that when Purdue, who was the number 1 seed, when they played FDU before, they felt that was a good matchup for them. Purdue was a good matchup for them. Why? Because Purdue relied so heavy on the inside presence. They were a much bigger team, but FDU was a much quicker team, faster team, and they felt they could do some things and disrupt Purdue, and they were able to. So it's not necessarily a lot of times about, this is a 1 and a 16 or 4 and a 5. No, it's about matchups. Yeah,
the matchups do play a part. No question.
The committee knows exactly what they do when they seed. I think they know exactly what they do when they seed these teams and who they're playing against and who the potential upsets can be in the first round. Now, after the first round, you just don't know. But the first round, when the committee put together these teams, they know exactly where the potential upsets can be, whether it's a 1 versus a 16 or a Memphis versus FAU. They know where those potential upsets can be.
Yeah, the Memphis FAU was a classic 8 versus 9, went right down to the wire. But now FAU is still alive, and they play Tennessee. So we'll talk about that when we come back. We have one more segment to go in the show before Jared takes over. So we've got more coming to wrap up the show next here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, ESPN 1025 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback.
185!
That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown!
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey Nashville, it's Chef Phillip at Bar Lines at the Omni Hotel. Come try our new hot dog burn ends. Nathan's all beef hot dogs smoked over pecan wood, tossed in honey sriracha barbecue, topped with a cool crema and crisp spring onions. One of my favorites.
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Nice run. It's great being back out on the mountain. You sort of disappeared for a while. Everything okay? Between you and me, it was lower testosterone. Lower T? Yeah. The doc told me once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to stay in shape. That's why I started taking Nugenix Total T. It's made a huge difference.
Oh, I've seen that on TV. Is it for real?
For sure. It's the #1 doctor-recommended testosterone booster. It boosts free and total testosterone levels to help you get back the drive and energy from your youth. My wife, my boss, my kids, everyone has noticed a change in me.
Do they still give out complimentary bottles for people to try for themselves?
Yes, just send them a text.
Guys, text HATCH to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Nugenix is the #1 selling testosterone brand at GNC and Walmart. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back in shape fast, absolutely free. Text HATCH to 321-321. That's HAT to 321-321.
He's got big takes.
It's not that freaking hard. Hand the ball to Henry.
Small takes.
You have to defend your decision.
But all takes.
They win, they lose. Just invested a lot into this game. I thought it was the worst press conference.
He is Jared Stillman.
I guess I'm just not a very good coach, Jared.
Weekdays from 2 to 6, Stillman and Company. Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Final segment of the show, Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Don't forget that the deal of the week is going on, and I lost my place to be able to tell you what it is. But this week's Nashville best deal is Eastside Bowl in Madison. So this week, here's the deal. 2 hours of bowl plus shoe rentals for up to 6 people for just $45. That's 2 full hours of bowling plus shoes for up to 6 people for $45 at Eastside Bowl in Madison. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to get yours. Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Caroline is out today. I'm up in Buffalo. Derek is back at the game studio, sponsored by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. So Predators Sabres tomorrow. No Roman Yossi last night. Did not make the trip. You never know. He could fly in here tomorrow, but boy, when a guy doesn't make the trip, you feel like it's going to be tough to expect him back in there tomorrow. So the Predators up against it against the Sabres, who also lost 7-0 yesterday to the Bruins. So interesting matchup. We'll have more on that tomorrow as we move forward. Meanwhile, for March Madness, D-Mase, I want to ask you this. You know how passionate the Kentucky fans are for their basketball team. I feel like John Calipari is probably under more heat than he's ever been in, and he's at that stage of his career. He's been there so long that you kind of get to that point where if you're the coach, has all of this worn you down so much to where you're like, do I really want to keep hearing all this? You know, I've won a national title. I have done a great job for this program, but it's never good enough, it seems like. So where do you think his head is right now?
Probably exactly where you say it was, where you say it is. You know, but again, you got to understand, Willie, which I know you do. This team, since Coach Cal has gotten there, if you take the collection of talent that they've had, what year did he get there? 2000, was it 9, 10?
I will. You keep talking. I will look it up.
No, he got there 2010. Yeah, got there 2010.
Yeah,
Billy Gillespie.
He took Memphis.
No, John Calhoun was there. No. I'm saying John Calhoun. No, you're right. Billy Gillespie.
Billy Gillespie,
yeah.
And he had taken Memphis to the finals. Had Derrick Rose and those teams. He had some great Memphis teams, and then he went to Kentucky, and so he's been there for well over a decade.
Yeah,
and he took the program back up to where they're accustomed to playing. Perennially in the mix.
But you got to understand this. This is why, it's Kentucky fans are sort of at their wits' end in a sense. Whereas he's always going to have you with the number 1, 2, 3, 4 recruiting class in the country. He's going to get the guys. They're going to come to Kentucky. With the collection of guys from Anthony Davis on down, you can name all these guys that are now, in the NBA and that are superstars or borderline superstars in the NBA. And out of all of that, you've only won one national championship, which is great. Izzo's only won one. But the thing with Izzo is he hasn't had the classes that you had at Kentucky. You won a national championship in 2012. You've been in the Final Four, semifinals, second round, regional finals, regional semis, regional finals, first round, second round. So you haven't even got back. You haven't, with the teams that you've had, you haven't put your program in a position to win a national championship. And I think people are fed up with it. Kentucky fans are fed up with it, and rightfully so, because it's not like Coach Cal has had, top, 50, and he was number 49 recruiting classes, and everybody else is beating him, and he's been able to, win games despite all of that. No, you've had top recruiting classes in the country, players that are all-stars, first-round picks, lottery picks, and you only have one championship to show for it?
And remember, we're talking about Kentucky, where they're a little bit more like the Yankees.
Absolutely.
With their fan base. It's basically, look, unless you're winning the national championship or going to the Final Four, it's not good enough. I don't know what you think at Michigan State, Derek. You're the right guy to ask. I don't know that their fan base is quite like that, where it's like, because they're so consistent, Michigan State, right? They've only won it once, but they always seem to be good. And he doesn't have the one-and-done kind of guy. It's interesting, too. The formula's changed some. You got older college players. You can play to your 22, 23. It's hard if you bring in the best freshman at 18, still hard to beat guys 4 years older than you sometimes. So that mix of how to build the roster has changed some. But what do you think the expectation level is at Michigan State? It seems like Tom Izzo, he's got so much credibility with that group that even if he has an off year here and there, it's like, hey, look, we're good with Izzo. We don't want him going anywhere.
He has made 25 straight tournament appearances. And I would almost bet that out of those 25 tournament appearances, he's had maybe a handful of top recruiting classes. We're talking top 5 classes, top 10 classes. One thing about Izzo, there's a reason why, they coined March Izzo month, because he finds a way to get these guys to playing good basketball. Even when people count them out, they always find a way to fight and claw their way through the tournament. And yeah, they end up losing, but it's not because they're not well coached. A team may just be better than them, like personnel-wise. It's never because he's been out-coached. Well, with Cal, it's been the opposite. I think that's why Kentucky
That's
fans
the perception. That
are
is
so
the perception
upset. Yes,
sometimes.
exactly.
And the other thing is, too, where they have those endless resources, the relentless. You now have the ability to sort of buy players from the transfer portal. That's the other thing that's happening, right? It's not about necessarily the one-and-dones out of high school anymore. It's a blend. If you get a one-and-done, great. But also you can, for lack of a better term, sign free agents who are older, who, you can pay legally through the NIL. So Kentucky has the ability to do that. So I think, that's what's to look for going forward. But you almost become your own worst enemy when you do well, and that's where Calipari is. And Rick Barnes has had a little bit of that too. And so now Rick Barnes, after getting just hammered by his own fan base for a while here, now they're in the Sweet 16. I'm really curious to see how they play coming up on Thursday with their matchup with Florida Atlantic, because that's not a gimme. So I think the fan was like, oh, they should beat them. But Florida Atlantic is a really good team.
Yeah, they're a really good team. And I think this year I can, even though I didn't pick them to go this far, I picked them to lose to Duke. But I think because the pressure isn't on them from a national standpoint. Now, the pressure is going to be on him from Vol fans, period. But I think the pressure from a national standpoint that was there in previous years because of the players he's had is not there this year. So they can play with this sense of, it's almost like playing with house money. It's like nobody predicted us to be here, so let's just go out there and play the way we know how to play, hard-nosed, scrappy defense, and make it very difficult for teams to get in their offensive sets on the other end of the court. And it's been working for them. So you wonder if versus FAU, will it continue to work?
Yep. Some shakeups, too, on the coaching ranks. Ed Cooley is leaving Providence to go to Georgetown to replace Patrick Ewing. And poor Patrick Ewing goes back to his alma mater, but just could not get anything going there. They got buried in that league. So Ed Cooley goes to the Hoyas, and Rick Pitino is back in the big time. He's going to St. John's. Let's see what he can do at that program.
The Big East.
Very interesting. The Big East is back. Rick Pitino is back in the Big East. Oh, my goodness. Things come full circle, don't they?
Absolutely.
Wow. D-Mase, good stuff. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we will crank it up once again. Predators against the Sabres. We'll keep looking at the tournament, and we'll keep up with the Titans. Jared is coming up. Stillman and Company next here on 102.5 The Game.
Peace.